Hi everybody, my name is Josie. I am a Twitch streamer. I mainly stream Apex and play Apex. I am going to be dabbling into some new games and getting back into streaming. I am also a TikTok creator and I'm new to gaming, or newer. I've only been playing for a few years, and so on this podcast we have some guests that come in, and today we have Logan, or Camo Darts, who's also a streamer and a big gamer, and so we're just going to be chatting and talking about his journey and experiences. Logan, hey, welcome in. Thanks for being here.
Absolutely.
Good to have you. Really, what I want to first dive into, just because it's all about gaming and streaming, is I want to hear, talk to us about your journey, how you got into gaming. Everyone's story is different. How old were you? Why you've kept it up? I want to hear the whole history of your gaming.
Yeah. So I guess growing up as a kid, I didn't really have video games. My parents were very anti video games. My first console was I think it was a Sega handheld when I was 12.
What about Nintendos? Did you have Nintendo or anything, or no?
I had a Game Boy. I got it.
Okay.
So I used to have to fly. My parents were divorced, so I used to have to fly back and forth between parents' houses.
Yeah.
And so that was the first one was the Sega, which was this monstrosity that I got. And then eventually my parents bought me a Game Boy when I was little, and I fell in love with Pokemon. I played Pokemon as a kid. That was the only game I played. And it wasn't until I was in high school and I got a job that I could afford to go buy myself an Xbox. And I had this really crappy Xbox and a really crappy setup trying to figure out how to run internet so I could play games with friends. And then about halfway through high school, my buddy upgraded to building his first gaming PC, and he gave me his gaming laptop. And so I then fell in love with Team Fortress 2 was the game that I played.
Okay.
And then it kind of just moved from there. And eventually I just always loved it. And for me, it was not so much about the games themselves. It was more about playing with my friends.
Yeah.
And so then I eventually built my own PC. And then when COVID happened, I got laid off from work, and I had started to dabble in being a part of the Twitch community, and I had kind of involved myself into a couple of friend groups sort of. And then when I got laid off about halfway through 2020, I was well, I got nothing better to do, so I guess I might as well start, streaming and kind of diving a little deper into it.
Yeah. So with your parents, when they didn't let you game, and then you said that you got a Game Boy, did they say, okay, when you can pay for your own stuff, then you can game,
they
and
were
that's
just,
when you buy your stuff? Or
no, there was no my parents just outright refused to contribute to any sort of video games.
But if you paid for it, was it okay? They're
if
fine.
If I paid for it with my own money, I could basically do whatever I wanted.
Okay, that's pretty fair. That's pretty fair.
But yeah,
how do they feel about it now? Are they surprised?
They still don't like it. No, my dad has gotten a little bit more understanding, and then it's mostly my uncle and my aunt, because they actually live close by to me now that I live in Colorado. And they just don't understand. They don't get it. They're like, those aren't your real friends. I'm like, no, you don't understand.
They're closer. They're closer than your real friends.
It's weird.
Yeah.
That is my biggest thing, is anybody who plays video games online, and you have a group of people that you have played with for a while, whether it's through Discord or Xbox or whatever, is meet these people in real life.
Yeah.
I can honestly say that my gaming friends, the vast majority of them are closer to me and are more of my friends and more of my best friends and know more about me than half of my IRL friends.
Yeah. It's almost crazy. I didn't even realize the relationships that you could have from, and how they're almost even closer, what you were saying, to people than you're in real life. I don't know why. Do you have an idea of why you have such a stronger connection with some people online?
I think the pool of people that you are able to pull from is a much bigger pool.
Yes.
And so when
Good
you are
point.
already meeting people in a game that you enjoy, or say a Twitch stream that you enjoy, you're already finding people who like the same thing as you, which brings you to the commonality. And then from there, you then develop a friendship with these people. Like, you develop a deeper friendship and a deeper connection, and you get to know them. Whereas your IRL friends are oftentimes friends from circumstance. They're just people that were, you know, say like maybe from high school, like where you were around them every single day. And so that's why you became friends. It wasn't based on a similar deal, I guess. And you had a much smaller group to pull from versus on the internet where there's everyone.
Yeah, you almost have more of a choice as well.
Agreed.
You know, yeah, you get to like choose. It's so crazy too, because you realize even though the gaming world opens up to a vast majority of more people, like all over the world, it's crazy how small of a world it is though. You know, like I was friends with somebody in France and they moved to Canada, and then they met some of my friends, or there was somebody who was in Australia, and one of my best friends to this day, he was like, I dated her. I was like, what? He's like, I saw you in her stream. And I was like, that's so crazy. And things like that. Like, you wouldn't even expect it, you know?
Oh, absolutely not.
So it's like more vast, but it's also like a smaller world. So what would you tell kids now, being an adult and looking back, who have strict parents with video games? What would you, like, how would you respond to that? Or what would you tell them, what you wish you knew now, or go back?
I mean, moving past the obvious of like, obviously you need to respect your parents and those things. I tell people, just pursue your passions. Like, if something is something that you like, if it's something you really want to do, and like, say you want to get on Twitch or, you know, whatever else, like, go for it. I mean, obviously there are, you know, some circumstances where maybe your parents just outright won't let you, in which case I'm not going to go tell you defy your parents. But like, if you have the means, like if it's something you really want to do, and like, if for like my case, if your parents are willing to let you pay for it with your own money and it's what you want to do, chase it. Like, go, like, I tell people all the time that meeting my friends on the internet, which is a hilarious story.
I know.
But, one of the best choices I ever made, and I almost never made that choice.
Tell us the story.
So, 3 of now who are like some of my closest friends, Rue, Sheepy, and Blackacres.
Blackacres.
Yeah,
oh, yeah.
I had never. This is before you and I even had like become friends. I had kind of enveloped myself in a Twitch community, and they knew that I traveled for work, and Rue basically told me, he said, the next time you were in LA, let me know and let's go get a drink. And in my head, I went, strangers from the internet.
My first real encounter with someone in LA too. and the same thing, strangers from the internet.
I'm like, oh, do I want to meet like a stranger from the internet? Like, I'm like, what if they're a catfish? Like, what if this? What if that? Like, I don't.
What if they're a murderer?
Like, stranger danger, you know, the classic.
Which you should be wary of.
Absolutely, absolutely. Don't like, if somebody's like, hey, you should come to my house, absolutely not. Turn them on.
Be smart.
Like, please be smart. Please be safe. Like, I can't preach that enough.
Stay safe.
Like, and this may sound pompous or arrogant, but I'm like, I'm a male that could take care of myself. Like, I'll be fine. We're meeting up in a public area. It should be fine. Needless to say, I was still absolutely nervous. And I had never seen Acre's face before. I'd never seen Sheepy's face before. And quite honestly, I don't know that I'd ever seen Rue's face before. I don't think any of us knew what each other looked like.
Did you know their real names?
I didn't even know their real names.
Yeah, that's the thing. That's the thing that's so crazy, is that, like, not only have you never seen them before, you also don't know their real names, and you're meeting up with these people, and they're some of your closest friends online. And just so everybody knows too, Camo and I, we met online as well. And then we got to meet in person at just this past year, actually, not too long ago.
TwitchCon.
Yeah, which is cool. But anyways, yes, continue.
Anyway, it was super crazy. I was super nervous, super scared. I drove down. I met them at K-Town for Korean barbecue.
Yes. Where'd you guys go? Wait, where'd you go? There's a really good Korean barbecue place in K-Town.
I don't remember the name. I would have to text Rue or Sheep Ear Acres. They are.
I was just curious.
If you guys are ever in LA and you want the food gurus, ask those three. They know every place ever. Like these little tiny hole in the wall places that you wouldn't even recognize was a place.
There's this Korean barbecue place that's like one of the best, and not many people know. But I think it's Haejing Chung or something.
Yeah, I have no idea.
Yeah, I think that's the name of it. And it's like a hole in the wall secret one but I'm sure in K-Town there's a lot of Korean barbecue places, but that's a really good one. So, okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
I've been back there twice now. So I went there the first time and we've been back. Anyway, Rue and I were standing literally across the aisle from each other, texting each other, trying to figure out if we were both there.
Yeah. And you're scanning and you're like, okay, is it you? Or like, I could kind of see you match this voice. And then when the voices don't line up, you're like, ah. Okay.
Well, and this is also still during mask phase. Everyone's still wearing masks.
Oh, that's even,
so you can only see this part of my face and you're meeting a stranger in public who you don't know. But I mean, we ended up hitting it off, and I still have a picture that I have saved from that night from the four of us. And it truly was the best decision. I'll send it to you.
I want to see it.
Truly one of the best decisions that I have ever made in my life.
Yeah.
That choice to meet them in person, not only solidified that okay, these people are who they actually said that they were, they actually in everything, but then that opened the door to for me to meet other people.
Yes.
And ultimately end up going to TwitchCon this year with a group of 30 deep.
So many, I know.
Yeah. And it's just wild. It's wild to me still to just think about that I have all of these friends that I don't get to see every day, but I talk to them every day.
I would say with people who, okay, so you do want to be careful with stranger danger, of course, but especially if you're a girl, my ladies, be extra safe.
Yes,
I am so careful. I'm very careful. I didn't even give my number out to you until I met you in person. I was I won't give my number out to anybody. I'll stay on Discord, and I'm very, very particular. And I definitely you want to meet in a public place, and because even still, there's plenty of normal people online, and they're incredible. And we hit it off so well. I was I know for a fact we're gonna be fine, but just the small chance.
Oh yeah,
you could be some weirdo. Always protect yourself and always bring somebody, but. I think if you do it right, as long as you're safe, the risk though of it being a little awkward, or maybe you do get catfish, as long as you're safe, the risk of it being awkward or catfish or not the best totally is worth it to meeting those people in real life and then being your closest friends.
Oh, absolutely. And especially if you are a woman or you are nervous, and this is obviously not anything against women, but
your gut or something.
Yeah, if there's something that just doesn't feel right, please go with somebody else. Bring a friend with you, bring, somebody significant other, whatever. Don't show up alone.
Yeah. Stay safe.
Yeah. Please.
Yeah. I think so. It's so funny too, because my other super close friend that I met online, who I got to meet at TwitchCon as well, which was so cool. And TwitchCon's a great place too, to where if you're kind of iffy about meeting people, but see if you can meet everybody there, because then it's just an event for all streamers, all gamers. Yeah. It kind of takes the pressure off. It makes sense while you're there. On the same note, which you were there for, and I'm not going to name names, but so as much as you get along with people online and have friends, there's always, especially if you're a streamer, and you know this very well, Camo, from being moderators in people's chats, your own, seeing it, and even what happened with us. If somebody gives you kind of a weird vibe to where it's not enough where you want to ban them in your chat, but it's just something where it's sometimes they say things, or I don't know. In person, that was also amplified. Yep. So if somebody slightly throws you off in online, then when you meet them in person, they're probably going to be freaking weirdos, which is what happened with us. It was so uncomfortable, like with one person, but we were with a whole group of people. We could ignore them. It was fine. But you want to be careful just as much as when you meet somebody cool online and you think that they're really good friends. As long as they're who they say they are, that's usually amplified as well. Mm-hmm. So it goes both ways.
Well, yeah, and I think what also helps with that too is like, don't meet somebody on, like, if you're in a Twitch chat tonight and somebody's like, "Oh, I live in your same area, like, let's hang out."
Yeah,
like,
no,
run.
Yeah.
But like, if you have talked to this person for like, I don't know, say like a month in a Twitch chat, and then like maybe you follow each other on Instagram, maybe you follow each other on TikTok or whatever else, you can kind of get a feel for a little bit of who this person is. Now, I'm not saying everything on the internet's real, obviously, but like you can get a little bit of a feel before you meet this person too. It also helps too if somebody who you already know really well can like vouch for that person.
Yes, and which again goes back to it being a small world. And usually, if you meet somebody in a game and then they say, "Oh, like if you're talking with them and you guys hit it off, you can say, "Oh, who do you watch on Twitch? Or are there any Twitch people?" And then if you guys are in that Twitch community and then you're talking to other people, or if they have a friend that they play with and their friend's cool, then like you can kind of, it's more than just like the community spreads as well. So as long as everything's good, but if there's loners completely, I agree. I think that's a good way to look at it, or to like, get a better idea.
Even like you're in my situation, for example, like elders. We both know elders like pretty freaking well.
And Shotgun, you know?
And MLG as well.
Yeah.
Like, it's, you know, they're like, you knew them, I knew them, you know. And
you
so it's
know everybody. Campbell, you've done such a good job.
Honestly, I have no idea. Like, I have told people this. MLG brings this up all the time. He's like, he's like, everyone invites you to play games. And I'm like, I don't know what I did. Like, I'm just a guy.
Mr. Popular over here.
Like, I'm just a guy. I just showed up and I'm just like cool with people. I don't know.
I have to say, I think you do such a good job. I don't know if it's your personality, and I kind of want to I want to see if you can explain it, but you are one of the best. I don't like using networking as a word necessarily, but it is networking. Like, usually, sometimes networking, I think there's two ways about it. There's a way to network to expand your current group, and then some people network just to social climb or to have an agenda. You definitely are not the latter. You totally just network. You have a lot of people, and you have networked with some higher level people who you could social climb with. So like, how did you learn to network, or what would you say with people who are trying to expand their network in a good way? And maybe if you're intimidated by somebody who's a bigger streamer than you, like how do you go about that? That's a couple questions. So
so I guess first of all, I would say I don't have a great answer for like how I learned to network.
I know, it's just you. Like it's just you.
But I can explain, I guess, like what I've done.
Yes, that would be good.
And I think the biggest thing for me is that I am just like, I'm just me. Like I don't try to be anybody that I'm not.
Yeah.
And you are going to get the same me, whether it's online or in person. Like I am the same person.
True. I can vouch for that. Yep.
And I'm not going to bullshit you. I'm not going to like it. To me, it's just like, I treat people the way that I would hope that they would treat me. I guess that's like the golden rule. Like, yes, I have made friends with like some bigger streamers, but it was never, I didn't go clout chasing, I guess is the 2022 term for it. It was never my objective to go out and like gain followers or whatever else. Like that was never, my whole thing was like, I want to make friends. Like I want to be friends with people. I want to have a good time. I want to be able to play games with people that I enjoy playing games with. And so that's kind of just where it went. And so for me, it was never about like, oh, this person has this many views, I want to make sure that I'm playing with them or whatever else. Like,
I know some people that do that. It's a huge turnoff. And honestly, I think that that's going to defeat the purpose of, like, if you were trying to clout chase, that's not how you do it. You just have to be authentic.
Absolutely.
And I don't understand why people would even want to be friends or try to force themselves somewhere if they don't get along. So I have an issue, like the opposite issue, and I think some other people do, where even if I'll start to become kind of friends with somebody who's a bigger streamer, Then me, I am always weird about it because I don't want to make the first gesture because I'm like, I don't want them to assume that I just
don't
want
want
something.
anybody to think that I'm clout chasing or that I'm only there because of your
Yeah,
status.
exactly. So how do you like, I feel like you do a really good job with that. Do you just not care like who they are or what level they're at? And if they're a friend, they're a friend. Is that like,
I think
what would you
my
say?
thing is more just like, if we're, I guess, like if we vibe, for lack of a better term, or
You
like
vibe.
we're just like cool and like we're friends, like I'm just gonna want to play with you. Like it
Yeah.
doesn't matter to me whether you have 2 viewers in your chat or you've
Yeah.
got 20,000. I could care less.
Yeah.
And I think a big part of that to me is like, I look at some of these bigger streamers, and when you look at these people, like they have a community of friends that they play with. And that in turn to me, like those people end up having bigger view counts because people come there not just for said streamer, but for the experience. And like, to me, like a lot of people who I watch when they're playing with their friends, like I'm not just watching for them, I'm there for the entertainment and being a part of their funny conversation or whatever, and typing, say a joke in chat that like makes people laugh or, whatever. It's being a part of something that is bigger than myself, I guess.
Yes.
And yeah, I guess it's just like, I could care less if you've got 2 viewers or 20,000. It's not about that to me.
Even if you don't care, has it ever thrown you off though, or have you ever been like, I want to make sure that it doesn't come off that I'm clout chasing if there's somebody who has like 20,000, or do you literally like just completely separate the two where you just automatically like it doesn't even cross your mind? Has that ever happened or no?
I think that is a thought that crosses my mind where I don't want people to ever feel like I'm clout chasing, because to me, like I will notice other people who look like they're clout chasing, and it's a huge turnoff for me.
It's a huge turnoff. Yeah.
Yeah, because I don't want, like, without using names, there are people that I have been friends with, for instance, that I think I know what you're talking
about. Yeah, no names.
Yeah, so like there are people that I'm friends with that I've played games with, and we no longer play games together. And it's not for any lack of like me trying to play with them, but it's because like I'm not cool enough for them because I don't have like the views that they want or whatever.
Exactly.
And so to me, I'm just like, that's just so inauthentic.
Yeah.
And like if I'm gonna build a community and like build a Twitch stream with followers, like I want people who want to be there because they want to be there, not because of who I am or what I'm doing or whatever else. I want you to want to play with me because you want to play with me, not because you want to play with me to whatever. And and vice versa. I don't want to play with you because of your viewers or because of your followers. I want to play with you because I enjoy playing with you.
Yeah. So I think all in all, just straight up be your authentic self, and just treat people as if they have 2 viewers, if they had 20,000 or 1 million or whatever. And then you don't ever have to worry about that. And if someone's going to treat you crappy, whether it's a 2 follower person or 20,000, just handle everything the same. And
Absolutely.
I think just being respectful. I feel like I overthink it because I try so hard. I'm like, I do not want to come off as a clout chaser. That is so like, ugh, but sometimes I won't even talk to people that I did hit it off really well with. And I could have just sent a message because I'm like, I hope they don't think that me sending you a message or being like, hey, thanks for this, it's coming off as needing something. But like that's gonna happen no matter what. And if you are authentic, people can usually see that it's authentic or that it's not. So
absolutely. And I think another thing that like I try to do, I guess, to combat that is like when I stream, for instance, I turn my view count off.
Oh yeah, me too. I used to not. And then when the numbers started dropping, and this is when I was streaming consistently because if anyone's a streamer too and they want tips, like consistency is key if you're trying to grow. There's also other things, but one of the biggest is consistency. Like I would even cancel plans with friends because I was streaming consistently. It made me so mad too when people would be like, oh, you're just a girl, like you get viewers or whatever. And I was like, have you streamed Monday, Wednesday, Friday for half a year straight, and then you message your community when you can't. And the second that I stopped being consistent is when I lost my viewer count, which is expected. But but for me, I needed that break, and my internet was crappy and so many other things that there was a reason. And now it's like, okay, when I start again, I'm gonna be consistent because I do want to grow and I want to help foster that community.
Absolutely.
I had a reason to it, but you have to be consistent.
Oh yeah, and the reason for that, it makes total sense. Like, you think about people, for instance, take television. People are used to, okay, every Monday night is when my show comes on, and I'm going to sit down and watch my show.
Yeah.
You know, and so in a lot of ways, Twitch is the same thing to people. Like, that is their entertainment. That is their routine. That's where they go. And so if you're consistent and you stream every, Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 4 p.m., whatever, like, people just know, and they have their, live notifications or whatever.
Yes.
So that live notification goes and they're in your chat. Like,
and it's like a habit.
Oh, my TV show's on. Yeah.
Yeah. Or it's like a habit. Oh, Josie usually streams at this time. Logan's usually streaming at this time. And when you're consistent too, if you can't make it for some reason, you're going to make it the next time. Or it's like, oh, in a couple days. The inconsistency is when you're like, oh, they just happen to be on, but then you can kind of like plan for it. And some people genuinely do. But yeah, when I wasn't streaming consistently and then my viewer count dropped, I totally turned my view count. And so many people, like, I heard so many people saying, turn it off. But I was like, no, it's kind of cool to see. Like, I like seeing it grow. And then once it starts dropping, you just get in your own head. And then you think, like, well, what if it's me? And this is even when I was being consistent. Like, your viewer count's just going to fluctuate for whatever reason. It's not you. And it's the same thing too. Like, I think when you're a streamer and you're streaming authentically, so same thing with building friends and networking. If you're authentic, that's going to get you those better connections, because it's not your intention. And same thing with like streaming. If your only goal is to just get followers and get money, this is not the place for
Absolutely
you.
Not.
And you want to go because you enjoy it. And there's things that you can do to grow. Again, like being consistent, posting on other socials, networking with other people. There are ways to grow, but if that's your only thing, or money or something, that's not it. So being authentic both ways.
I mean, and just for like an example, again, not using names, but it's like, I know people who have been consistently stuck at the exact same level, and they have been super consistent, but it's because of that inauthenticness that people aren't getting, is why they just stick. They're stuck there with their same viewers that show up every single stream, which is fine. It's great. Like, you want those consistent viewers, but like, you're not growing because there's nothing bringing people there other than the people who have already been there.
Yeah, talking about being authentic and everything, and like people just, I love that too, even though we were just kind of joking, like, if you don't like me, pound sand, like, you really can't get too butthurt, especially in the gaming world, because people aren't gonna like you, or maybe a lot of people have issues with themselves and then they project it, and you could be fine with somebody and then it ends up breaking off, and like, that kind of happens, you know?
I mean, there's even instances where like you do down the road find out that somebody's not who you thought they were, and then you have to cut them out. It's unfortunate, but you just do it.
How do you think the best way to handle something like that is to cut somebody out? The best way where it's not like, and also from a girl's perspective, because you've modded for a lot of girls, like you're friends with a lot of girl gamers too, so I feel like you also kind of know, and you're very good with people. So like, what would you say? And the reason I say girls' perspective is because I don't think people realize that if you reject somebody as a female online, some people can get a little crazy, and you can be at risk, right? And so you need to like set a firm boundary So you need to set a boundary, but without pissing them off, which I know is so shitty. Like, I hate the fact that we even have to deal with that. But if you do overly piss somebody off, it could be dangerous for you. So like, what do you think is a good way? Because I know you've dealt with some of those things. How would you handle that?
I think it depends on the situation, first of all.
For sure. For sure.
Because there have been multiple situations that have been handled differently.
Do you have one that you can think of that was good and you're like, okay, like that went well in a situation like that?
Yeah, so for instance, there was a guy who was a mod in one of my friends' chats, and I was also a mod there, and this guy, she was a female streamer. This guy kind of started getting like kind of creepy and like very, very forward, and it was starting to get uncomfortable.
Her mod? It was her mod?
Yeah.
How long had he been a mod?
A few months. A few months.
So
she was, for the record, she's like pretty much brand new to streaming at the time. So like a lot of it was like inexperience. And so like it was a person that was around all the time. She needed a mod. Okay, here you go.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
And so like in that situation, what ended up happening is I basically told, like, her and I were talking about it, and I basically said, like, in my opinion, you can kind of go both ways. You either cut them out, you just ban them, be done with it, ban them off of everything, and just be done.
Yeah. But then they can make new accounts. People do that all the time.
Oh, that happened one night in her... Was that your stream or her stream? I can't remember. Where there was a guy who made like 6 accounts in one night.
Honestly, it's probably that's happened to me, but it was probably with multiple other people.
Yeah. I ultimately ended up having to contact Twitch and getting his IP banned, but that was
someone. Yeah, I think that was somebody else, but I've totally had that. Somebody made like a I hate Josie. They literally made an account with my name, so when you look up Josie Quinn, it's like Josie's a loser. Okay, whatever.
Yeah, no, this guy made like 6 accounts in a row, and it was like,
Jeez.
I don't remember what his name was, but it was like Chris 1, and then it was Chris 2, Chris 3, and like I was like, oh my goodness, and yeah, I had to eventually got him IP.
Something happened like that to me, but I don't think that you like contacted Twitch about it, or it wasn't with you. It was something else. So
no, I think they finally gave up.
Yeah,
I think they just finally gave up.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of situations. I guess what ended up happening with that situation is she had a talk with him, removed his mod, removed like VIP everything. He was just a normal person again. And she had the conversation.
You know what she
and
said?
They were
like, how did she say it? Did you help her with what to say, or did she kind of already know?
So it was kind of just like, hey, like this has been making me uncomfortable, like, and this yada 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 yada. For that reason, like, I'm removing you from being a mod. Like, being a mod is a privilege.
Yes.
And
you have to earn it. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, being a mod in a lot of ways is a privilege, but it's like also like when you are a mod, you are representing that streamer as well.
Yes.
And so, like, because you're making decisions about what's happening in the chat on behalf of the streamer.
Yes, and you're responding as well. Yeah. Like, you're responding sometimes if you're not banning or however you handle that. It's so true. So true.
And so what's actually funny is he is now a mod in her chat again.
Okay. Did he
which is actually a good thing. Yeah.
Okay.
So had this chat. It's been like, I don't know, say 6-8 months since this incident happened.
Okay.
The guy still showed up to chat every single day. He still participated. Still was very like, and like changed. He like changed the way he was acting and the way he was treating her and stopped saying weird, creepy shit. And so like,
I don't think some people realize what they're saying. Like, or they think it's funny online, and sometimes you can't tell, or it's like different humor, and it's like know the room. And I love gamers, but sometimes they don't have the best social skills, even online. And so I do think I always feel so bad. Like, I feel like people always at least need a reason. Some people don't deserve that at all. You don't even need to owe them an explanation. But like, it's always so awkward because nobody wants to be told that they're doing something wrong, or that, like, imagine being told that what you were doing made someone uncomfortable. Like, that's gonna hurt no matter who you are. But it's important to know, because if you've just never been told, then how are you going to change? And then it could help them with something else. So it's
exactly. Another like really, really, really important thing to remember, and I think a lot of people forget this, and it's the biggest reason that I hate texting. If you want to talk to me about something serious or like whatever else beyond just like very like small talk type of shit, call me.
Yeah.
And the same reason is like because of like Twitch chat. When you are texting in, whether it's phone or in a text chat, people cannot hear your tone of voice.
Not it. And me as oh my God, I'm the worst. I was talking about this with somebody else. I like when you're gaming and you're listening to music and you're trying to quadruple task already, and then somebody says something in chat as the streamer, your brain can't, like, I can't even compute sarcasm over message at all. And I remember I'd watch back my VODs to get a clip or something, and I'd be like, oh, that's where that came in. How did I not notice that was sarcasm? And everyone's making fun of me, and they're like, whoosh, which it is funny, but sarcasm or even like another type of tone might be taken a different way. You're totally right. Like with the keyboard warriors or anything, nobody can tell.
Yeah, so I'm very guilty of saying some crazy sus things in people's chats.
Right. And just not being innocent.
Yeah. However, like, it's because like that person knows me. Yeah. So it's like when I say that in their chat, like they know me, so they understand the tone of voice that I typed that as.
Yes.
But when you are a random in somebody's chat and they don't know you personally, and then you say some sus shit, like they're gonna be like, excuse me, like what?
Even something as like one of my really good friends, like one of my best people on my stream, he uses or he says that's what she said jokes all the time in writing. And there's one girl who I'm not gonna name names. It's the friend of the girl that we like who she doesn't like him, and I'm pretty sure she like ignored all of his stuff because he would say that's what she said jokes, and to her she's like, I don't know you, that's uncomfortable, like it's not funny to her. But to me, I was like, oh no, I get it, and like I know him. But like even something like that, as harmless as a oh that's what she said, it's like it can come off as creepy because you're like, why are you like, ew, get out.
Absolutely. And that's another thing too, like along those lines, is like I try to avoid any sort of controversial topic.
Me too.
In people's Twitch chats.
I don't know why some people don't. I even said that in my, like, I make that a rule where if it starts to get heated, I'm like, we're not talking about this here. Sorry.
Yeah.
Just not. And also because I think I'm a very central person in general. I know some people sway other ways, but, and I can understand, and I really try to understand both perspectives, even if it takes me some time, or even maybe like, I don't know, like I try to understand it. And when you're messaging or you're typing and there's a bunch of like feelings and emotion behind it, and you can't even get your point across, or maybe some things are not taken well, it's like, it's not worth it. Like, why are you even trying to have that conversation like that in a chat? It just makes people uncomfortable.
Yeah. Like if you want to have those chats, there's a time and a place. Like make friends in Twitch chats, become friends in Discord, whatever. Yeah. Have those chats in a VC off stream.
Yeah. Or be like, hey, can I call you? I have a question about, I've done that with someone in my stream who I had a question about something that maybe is like a topic that is tough to discuss, but they were like the epitome of it, and I wanted to understand it from their perspective. So we had calls about it, and they were like, oh, I'm so glad that like we can talk about it. And I would say like, hey, I don't understand that because of this or whatever. And then I'd say, okay, well, I think this way. And it was very much back and forth, very cordial. And I took away some really great knowledge from that conversation. But if that happened on chat or like in live stream, that would have been just a complete disaster.
It would have been received entirely differently.
And then if people can clip you, I think people don't realize too, if you're a streamer, that gets clipped and it can be like traced back to you and how you handle it. And some people fish for those kinds of things. And then if they put a 10-second video on a TikTok and then you blow up in a horrible way and get canceled, and if that's your like, woo, it can spiral, which you don't, nobody wants.
I mean, and there's countless examples of that, out in the world. And it's like, I ain't trying to get canceled.
No.
Especially for something that I never intended to hurt somebody's feelings or whatever. Right. They pulled something out of context. Like it's just
out of context.
It's just best to just avoid it. Like if I can just avoid it, like I'm happy to have those conversations off stream.
I agree. But I think another thing that a lot of streamers talk about is trauma dumping. That like, and I know everybody has different opinions about it. Like I always want, for me at least with my stream, and everyone has different rules, everyone has different comfort zones. There are some people, like for me, a lot of streamers hate self-promo. They're like, don't come in my stream and self-promo. I literally don't care. I'm like, if you want to self-promo, fine. Even if you just came in and did, because I knew that people weren't just going to go and leave my stream for them. And if they did, then that's fine. But other people don't like that. And that's their rules. That's their stream. That's their boundary. And so some people with trauma dumping, like, it can be like you want to get it all out, but it's also like maybe not do that in front of everybody all the time. If there's one or two people that you talk to, then like send them a message, be like, hey, I'm not okay, can we chat? Or this is what happened, I need to vent to somebody. But a lot of streamers have had some really uncomfortable situations, and some of them even break down and they're like, I don't know how to handle this information. Like, I don't know what to do. I'm not a therapist. Like, this is really intense stuff. And I'm not talking like I had a bad day. I'm talking like I've heard some crazy shit, which I'm
absolutely.
sure you have too. And you're like,
and you're like, what? Yeah.
And you're like, I don't know how to respond to this. And you're like in the middle of a fight.
Yeah, exactly. And
this is
so
awkward.
That's, as far as like it goes for me, it's like, if you come into my chat and I ask like, hey, how are you? Like, I genuinely want to know how you are. But if you were about ready to trauma dump me and drop me a paragraph in my chat and I'm in the middle of a fight,
about something you should be talking to a therapist, like an actual therapist.
I want everyone to know, like, I am happy to talk to you. I am happy to listen.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and maybe even give you the best advice I can give, even if that advice is go talk to a therapist or go talk to some professional.
For sure.
But A, I'm playing a game. B, you are not the only person in the chat, most likely.
You're not the in the chat, yeah, that's another thing.
So it's not all about you.
Yes.
And so,
yes.
And 3, you don't know if what you were about to type in chat about
triggers
whatever trauma you went through triggers somebody else.
Yes.
And so it's like, if
you said that so beautifully as to why trauma dumping is not the best.
Yeah.
You said that beautifully. That was so perfectly phrased.
Yeah. So like, if I ask you how you are and you're having a shit day, tell me, be like, I'm having a shit day. And if I, because I'm genuinely curious and because I genuinely care, I'm probably going to ask you, oh, why? Give me the short version, the 2
or be like, I'll tell you later, or we can. I've had plenty of people be like, who said that word for word. I've had a shit day, and I'm like, oh, why? What happened? And they said, I'll talk to you later. Are you free after stream? And I'm like,
exactly.
I will make time for you, or I am now. I am free now after stream,
and I'm extra happy to make time for you when you say that, because what you just did was not only respectful to everyone else in chat who may not really give a rip about what's going on in your life, no offense.
Yeah.
But also now I don't have to deal with that on stream of whatever it's going to be. And you have just also signified to me that this is more important than what should be said in a Twitch chat.
Yes.
And now when we have this conversation in Discord, I can actually give you my full undivided attention, which you deserve when you are asking somebody for help or asking somebody to listen to your problems.
I don't know why people do that. Maybe because it doesn't seem like they genuinely want. I think it is for a public thing, or maybe they want multiple people. I don't know.
I think part of it is the internet is a place where everyone can go and everyone has access to it in some degree. Like if you have a computer or whatever, or if you're on Twitch. And so there are some people out there who may not have a support system. They may not have somebody to talk to.
There's a lot of people that don't, unfortunately.
And so I understand that. I'm not going to knock you for that. And if you were coming into Twitch to make friends, great. I am right there behind you. I'm cheering for you.
Come on in.
Go make
you're
friends.
Welcome.
You're welcome
come make
here.
friends with us. Yeah.
Exactly. But there's a time and a place for everything.
Yeah.
And there's an appropriate time and a place for everything. I mean, I'm the biggest fucking goofball ever. Yeah. But there's also a time where I know that the goofball has to drop and I've got to be serious, and the maturity level has to come up.
When?
I don't know. It depends.
So you said that you're going to start streaming again because you streamed a little bit, and I know I catch occasionally in between all your travels and stuff. So I'm
the most inconsistent streamer.
Yeah, you are, but it's because you travel so much. Okay, also because I know you're not traveling as much anymore because you're raised. Congratulations.
Thank you.
But how did traveling affect your gaming as well, or maybe for people who don't have stationary, or for streamers, what would you say to them?
I mean, my gaming basically became limited to Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Friday night,
and
Saturday
sometimes not even then though.
Oh yeah. Yeah, sometimes I'd have to be gone on a weekend.
Yeah.
So yeah, it impacted that, but I always had like my laptop, which isn't anything special. I can't run any games on it. Um, and not to mention hotel Wi-Fi is a whole nother problem.
Yes. Yeah.
But having that and having Discord has allowed me to stay connected to the people that I'm connected to.
Yeah. Do you put time aside, or did it just happen naturally? Because for me, it's not instinctual for me to respond. And I feel like I get DMs, messages, like I'm constantly on email. I'm on every freaking, if you name it, I have that app on my Telegram, like Slack, WhatsApp. I'm on everything and I get notifications all the time. TikTok, Instagram, like, but I'm also a digital marketer and we have a team around the world. But so sometimes I'm exhausted. I don't want to respond to some people, or I don't have the time. And I feel like I miss out a lot and I feel guilty about it. But I feel like you always did such a good job, and you always do with that.
One, I don't think I get nearly as many messages as you do, and part of that is just because of your job.
Fair, okay.
I am a little less like annoyed by it, but like,
I don't get annoyed. I just feel like I can't keep up. And then I feel guilty.
Keep up. Are you kidding me? Absolutely not. And that's why, like, my go-to thing with everyone, and this is also just with my job and customers too. If you want to, if you need something, like, I need a text that says like, I need you or whatever, or like if you call me, you leave a voicemail. If you call me and you don't leave a voicemail, I ain't calling you back.
Yeah, why would you?
Exactly.
do people actually do that? Like, I would never call somebody back who didn't leave a voicemail.
I had an unknown number, which was a customer.
Oh my gosh.
Call me 4 times in a row in succession. If your name is not saved in my phone, I will not answer. And I tell everybody the same thing. If your number's not saved in my phone, I will not answer. First, you called me 4 times in a row and then complained to somebody that, like somebody else in my work, that I didn't answer my phone. It was my boss. My boss comes to me and goes, "Why didn't you answer your phone?" And I said, "Here's my call logs. They called me 4 times in a row.
Unknown number.
Did not leave a voicemail, did not give me a text message, did not give me an email. I have no concept of what you want, what you need, or anything like that.
Who you are.
Or who you are.
Yeah.
And so the same thing goes for everything else. It's like, there are people who message me, and like, if you just want a small talk and I don't have time for small talk, like, you're not going to get a response for like 6 hours, maybe. Yeah. But I do really,
for
really
me, it's
try.
Like a whole week.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
For me, it is a point of like, if you reach out to me specifically and you're asking me a question, I will make it a point, whether it is now or in 6 hours when I'm available to, I am going to respond.
But when you reach out to people to stay in touch, especially with traveling, like let's say, because there were times when you'd be gone for 2 weeks and you wouldn't game. And I know you've got like super close friends, but even with me, like I felt like you always did such a good job messaging here and there. Does it just come naturally to you to like be like, oh, I haven't talked to so-and-so in a while, I'm gonna just say hey, or like see if they are available for small talk or something?
Yeah. I mean,
and you deal with your online community is so large, and I feel like it only expands every day, because then you talk to somebody new and then you get involved in their community, and it's like, how do you keep up with all of it?
Yeah, I mean, I guess like the people that are, I guess, important to me, or that like I enjoy being around or talking to, like, I'm trying to think of like an example, but let's just take you for instance. Like, you kind of went dark and like weren't streaming anymore, and you know, whatever. And I was like, okay, 3 months has gone by. She hasn't streamed. I haven't talked to her or played games with her. I would consider us friends. Let me just send her a message and be like, hey, what's up? How are you doing? Like, are you alive? Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you can probably go back and count how many times I straight up texted you, are you alive?
I do that with people too, honestly, if it's been a while. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So it's like, I guess for me, I don't really put much thought into it. It's just like, I'm like, oh, I kind of like miss this person and I haven't seen him in a while. Like, let me just check in.
Naturally.
Like, you alive? How you doing? Like, it just kind of comes naturally. Yeah. As far as like me traveling, like, I get stuck and I'm just in a hotel room and I'm bored out of my mind. So I just hop on my laptop and I'm like, let's see who's in Discord.
Or who's streaming. Oh,
Yeah,
that's
or
true.
who's streaming
That's
or whatever.
true.
And then I'll just kind of hop in and chat with them for a little bit and then maybe go to bed.
Yeah,
Or
that's
like
true.
for a while we had like a watch party where there was a show we were all watching every week, and so we
Is that so chaotic? How does that work? I wanted to do something like that. I got way too scared. I was like, I do not know how.
It is a blast.
Yeah.
It also has to do with the show we were watching because it's ridiculous. But there was like 10 of us at least. Like every Tuesday night, we were in Discord. Somebody's streaming it in Discord and we're all watching. We'll take breaks to pause and commentate, or somebody's got to go to the bathroom. So like we know it's an hour show and we know it's going to take us 2 hours to watch it because we're all ridiculous.
That's actually shorter than I thought. I thought it'd take like 3 or 4 hours.
Oh no, we're better about it than that. And like we turn on subtitles and stuff, and like there's just like a level of like respect of like we all are here to watch this. Like we all want to watch it. So it's like, keep your commentary relevant. Like, don't be talking about what you had for lunch earlier today in the middle of the show.
How do you organize that? I feel like it would be like herding cats. Like, don't talk about your commentary of what you had for lunch. People would be like just trying to, I don't know, or they wouldn't realize.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, that wasn't really with like my stream community. That was like more of my community of friends. So it's a little bit different.
That's different.
I do know some people who do it with their community, and they will make a Discord channel where everyone automatically, when they join, they're just muted.
Oh, I see. Okay,
so,
that's
and then they'll
idea.
watch a movie together, and there will be a text chat so people can talk in the text chat, and then it doesn't interrupt from other people wanting to watch.
That's a good idea.
But for that show, for instance, it was just me and my friends, like through Twitch and Discord and whatever. And so it's just like we have that mutual respect of each other, and like it's already built.
You know it.
Yeah, I also think that most people that are going to like say join your Discord or whatever are people who actually want to be there and want to be involved in the community.
Yeah. It's like a filter. Like I would say if you're trying to grow, then you use a different social platform to get exposure, because Twitch is horrible exposure. Unless you're a YouTube streamer, that's different. I'm not familiar, but I've heard that's a lot easier. So, and Facebook too. But so you use a different social platform to get exposure. Then people come to your Twitch. Usually you build relationships there, and then they'll go into your Discord as like the close ones, and it's sort of like the funnel down there.
Exactly. Because I mean, like I'm not even in all of my friends' Discords because I would have 10,000 Discords.
Oh my gosh, I know. I'm not, and I'm so bad at like responding, and then you have to keep up with chat and stuff.
Yeah.
But
and that's the other thing too that I'm horrible about with Discord is like I have all notifications muted except for DMs. So it's like if you want my attention,
my DMs are even muted.
Like if you want my attention, you DM me, you text me, you call me, like something. Like you have to signify that to me that it is worth more than just like a hey.
Yeah.
Like
some people do that. Which, and if I'm around to say hey, of course I will. But for the most part,
absolutely.
For the most part. So what's next for you? Because you just got your promotion, you're gonna be traveling less. Like, what's the plan? What are you gonna be doing? Are you like tell me about next steps.
I guess next steps for me. So like I just got promoted. I technically started my new position like today and yesterday. But it officially like starts first of the year. I am still going to have to travel like every couple months, but the goal for me right now is to basically, once the start of the year hits, is to start having at least a semi-consistent schedule. Like at least if I can say I'm going to stream 3 days a week or 2 days a week, that may not always be on the same day, but like I'm gonna do it. Like I want to be able to tell people that so that, like they know that they can be looking for something.
They can catch you at least.
Like turn your notifications on Twitch. Like I need
to do that.
Be on
Thanks for reminding me.
multiple times. Yeah. And I don't have my notifications on for everybody, but the people that I like care and like genuinely want to be there. Yeah. Again, it goes back to like that show. Like I have people that like, for instance, when I'm at work, I watch the same person while I'm at work almost every day, and I'm just lurking. I don't even talk and chat that much.
Yeah.
You know,
We
and so
love
it's
our
like them, I
lurkers.
have their notifications on or whatever. Like I have your notifications on because I'm like, the one time she's gonna stream in a blue moon, like, God damn it, I want to be there. You know?
I'm so scared my internet's gonna crap out again the second I'm like, okay, I'm ready, I'm good. We're gonna that happened to me because I took a little break, and then the second I came back, I was like, I'm ready, we're gonna be consistent. Internet just went completely, and everyone's like, where'd you go? It's like, oh no, then I had to call the internet service provider. It was a mess, but yeah. Okay.
For me, it's just it's gonna start building something. Like I actually want to start like getting clips and posting clips and like actually like putting myself out there on other socials. No.
Do you know which socials you're gonna use, or like, are you trying to get, like, do you have goals, or are you just kind of like gonna expose yourself a bit more and see, or get more exposure and then see what comes? Like, do you have any games you're playing, or is it just kind of like, I'm gonna try to take this a little more seriously, a little more consistently, and then see what happens?
So I don't want to take it seriously for any sort of reason other than like having a community and like the people who do want to watch my streams that want to be there to be there. Like I don't intend, like if it happens, great. I would be absolutely ecstatic.
Now you're gonna blow up. Now you're gonna be like one of the top streamers in the world.
I fucking wish.
Because literally it's people with the attitude.
Yeah, like my goal is not to go out there and make a shit ton of money and like make a career out of this. If it happens, absolutely great. But like my goal is more of just the same of like, I just want to be who I am. I want to enjoy playing games with people. And like the whole reason I started streaming in the first place was because I wanted to make friends. I wanted to have people to play with. I wanted to like somebody to be able to come into my chat, relate to maybe something, you know, on a deeper level than just like surface level gaming.
That's why I started streaming, because I was thinking about it, and well, I thought it was gonna be really easy, and I was like, I'm gonna blow up. I'm a girl, like it was not. No. It was not easy. But then right when I realized like, okay, that's not how this works, it was very quick. And being new to gaming and being like, I was playing in easier lobbies, and this was when Apex wasn't as toxic. It was a lot better. Like that was the goal, was to meet people and have friends, especially because it was during COVID. So that was the main way of connecting. And then when I realized how good, like how incredible connections were, it's like, oh my God, why didn't I do this sooner?
Yeah, so for me, it's like, as of right now, like my plans to like post clips on TikTok and, you know, stuff like that. But like, I don't have any plans to like hire an editor or something. You know, like I'm not going like nuclear with it. Like I want to start somewhere, and I just kind of want to let it happen naturally. Like I want to I want to put work into it because I'm having fun. I don't want it to become something where it's a job and it's a chore and it's no longer fun to me.
Yeah, which happens very quickly, and even like it's a lot, and that's why too, like take your breaks if you need it, for anyone who's a streamer and needed to hear that. Like it, even when you're not trying to, especially if you're somebody who is always like, I'm very competitive, I want to grow, I always like to do something for an outcome, but sometimes it really just is like, have fun and like remember why you did it, and everything else will come. And then like, because you don't want to get burnt out, because that sucks. You know,
because the moment that it starts to become like a job and like a chore, and like, because there are some people where it is their job, it is their only source of income. But the moment that it starts to not be fun and feel like a chore and you're not enjoying it anymore, that to me is when your stream is going to plateau.
Yes.
Because like even just watching some streamers that I have watched forever, like I have watched it become more of a chore to them, where they're not having as much fun and they're not enjoying it. And then being there in their Twitch chat is just not as entertaining anymore. Like
you can like feel it.
Like I can feel that you're not having fun. Like you're not enjoying your time.
Yeah. I was like, what are you doing? Why are you here?
Yeah. Like I want to enjoy it. I want to always enjoy it. And like that's your goal. That's what made me love gaming in the first place, was that I didn't have the ability to game, and then I really liked it. I started doing it, and that's what was fun to me. And I don't want to ruin video games for myself. I don't want to ruin any of that for myself simply because I make it unfun because I'm trying too hard to reach some astronomical goal.
That's really difficult, especially if you're on Twitch. Like it's really tough. So yeah. I think that was great. Well, thank you so much. We're gonna have to wrap up here. Do you have any final words or anything else that you want to say before we end? No?
No,
Okay.
I can't wait for you to start streaming and us to play games together more, but that's about it.
It'll be soon. It'll be soon. And I'm excited for you to start streaming, and I'm gonna turn my notifications on so I can pop in.
I'm so excited. Like, I'm so excited to start streaming again because people ask me all the time. They're like, "You need to stream more."
Yeah, you do. You do. I'm super psyched for that.
So.
Awesome. Okay.
Perfect.
Well,
this has been fun. Thanks for having me on.
What's going on, guys? It's episode 4 of Throne Breaks. I'm your host, Al King, aka Big Alan. Today we have another guest, a very well-known guest, host of the Hobby is Alive podcast, one of the Blesnick brothers. That's right, we have C Blez, aka Chad, on. You'll find out that he doesn't even want to be called that anymore. He's strictly C Blez. We might even change his legal name. I can't wait to get to that interview, and on the back end I have another mail day. This time, unlike the others that I didn't know what was in it, I know what's in this. It's a lot of Kobe cards. Really excited to get to that. As you know, big Kobe guy here. But first, I want to just talk a little bit about C Blez before we get into his interview. He, as we all know, is making the rounds. He's traveling to all the shows he can. He's now hosting the podcast. There's just a lot of stories about C Blez out there that you either know or you don't. And you can find it. There's a couple videos on YouTube about his side hustle and how he made money in sports cards and all that stuff that Whistle does. It's really good pieces on Chad. But without further ado, let's just get right into the interview with C Blez. Hey, what's going on, guys? I got Chad Blesnick, aka C Blez, with me. And Chad, does it feel like your name is maybe more C Blez than Chad now? Does anyone even call you Chad anymore?
People don't even know my name, and I don't even want to be called by my name. Just call me C Blez. That's what I want to hear.
That's crazy. Yeah, I mean, that's like a famous nickname now that I'll just call you C Blez from now on. Then I even when I see you in the real world, I'll still call you C. I won't even call you Chad anymore.
I like that, and it's a pleasure to be here. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, thanks for joining. Hey, the first question I always like to start with is, when did you start collecting and why? How long have you been collecting?
So I got into the hobby in about 2003. The way I got in was pretty much my two older brothers combined with the fact that LeBron was coming in. I was always a big sports fanatic my whole life since I was like 4 or 5. My older brothers are 5 years older and 8 years older. So LeBron came in, and also my dad is in the corporate world. He's in the business world. So I kind of always had a mix of like sports and business. And to me, the hobby kind of combines those elements very well. Because as a young kid, you can learn so much, buying, selling, trading, and people call it investing, whatever you want to say, but you learn so much, and Gary Vee says it too. It's like all the principles that he uses today to conduct his business, he learned from the sports card industry. So I got in 2003 when LeBron was the most hyped thing of all time. He was way more hyped than Zion even. It's hard to compare it because we weren't in the social media age back in 03 and we are now. But LeBron was so hyped. They were actually covering him in high school. I don't know if people remember. But they were covering him in high school. They do that now. But back in the day, that was unheard of to cover someone that young. He was called the Chosen One. He was the king. And the boxes were not that expensive. Back in the day, I had a local card shop in my town. I became friends with the owner, and yeah, LeBron kind of got me back in. I joined the hobby in 2003. I actually went to the National that year with my brothers.
Wow.
And I just stuck it out, never left. I always loved the principles in the hobby and just sort of like the elements that combine other businesses and bring it into sports cards. I just love the excitement, the fact that you could buy a card and sell it for more quickly, the fact that you can buy a card, hold it for 3 years, and it might be worth a lot more, it might be worth a lot less. I love volatility, I love risk, and I just love the sports card hobby.
Yeah, no, this is the place for it. And you're right. Back in '03, covering high schoolers was unheard of. And LeBron was on Sports Illustrated magazines. He was on ESPN mag.
Exactly.
He was everywhere. If social media was a thing back then, it would have been. You're right. It would have been absolutely bananas with LeBron.
Yeah, I mean he kind of like laid out the blueprint, and people think that we've been spoiled the last few years with these rookie classes. A lot of these players are coming in and they're performing at such a high level right away, but it's not normal. Usually it's like 1 in 5 years, 1 in 7 years, we'll see a player like LeBron, like Zion, like Luka. But lately, a lot of players have been performing. So maybe it's a new trend, or I don't know.
Yeah, we have been spoiled. You're right. You said it. You said it correctly. Since 1920 produced Ja and Zion,
Yeah.
1819 Luka Trey, 2021 Maxey, Halliburton, Edwards, LaMelo, right? And then this last year's class. I mean, you love this last year's class. You got a few guys that you love. Before we get to that, I know you just started a new podcast called The Hobby is Alive. You wanna kind of just tell us what that's about and how that came around?
Yeah, so I decided to get involved in a podcast. I just think that it's good to try out as many different avenues as you can because my life is sports cards. I don't really do much else besides sports cards and sports. So I just want to try out all the different avenues there are and see what I'm good at and then just roll with that. And I think that the interviews and podcasts is something that I enjoy a lot. And I like talking about the stories around the hobby, not just investing and trading. So with the Hobby is Alive podcast, I'm gonna be bringing on guests pretty much every time, and I'm trying to get people who do different things within the sports card space that they're experts on, because I want to learn. There's so much to learn in the hobby. It's not like one person can know everything. It's like pretty much impossible.
Yeah.
So I want to bring in people on subjects that I know a little bit about and I'm trying to learn more. And I'm bringing in experts to just pick their brains and talk about them and also give them a chance to speak on a platform that maybe gets more views or something like that. It's good marketing for them also. So it's kind of a double win-win for both of us.
Yeah, I love that. What I saw your last interview with Vortex Sports Cards, Andrew. So Andrew and I both kind of started on TikTok around the same time, and Andrew stuck with it and has become who he has become, and it's freaking incredible to see. So it's just great. And TikTok, that growth strategy on TikTok, which I'm sure you guys talked about on there, it's unreal what TikTok can blow. It can just blow up your business 1,000%.
The thing is with TikTok, you just get way more of an organic reach, which is amazing. It's like you can post, you can not have an account, create an account tomorrow, and get 1,000 views on a video. It's like if you do that on Instagram, you're probably not going to get that many views, and if you do it on YouTube, you're probably going to get even less. So
Right.
it's like it has the most organic reach. So TikTok's definitely a place where I'm focusing more on, and I think a lot of people should too.
Yeah, no doubt. Hey, you're traveling to shows like almost every week now, right? Just kind of
Yeah.
tell me what that's been like, and what excites you about that, and what are some pros and what are some, if you want to give me like a negative too, maybe you can find one.
So I've been going to shows, I would say, for the last 3 or 4 months. For me, I'm like a feel person. So I like to go and see what's actually happening with my own two eyes. I have a lot of friends in the hobby that tell me what's going on, but it's different when you see it in person. So I like to go to the shows and just see like how much money's being transacted or like who the hot players are and stuff like that. So I would say a positive about going to the shows is you could see who's hot, and then it makes, if you're a flipper, which I've been getting into that a little bit over the past couple months just to see what the flippers are doing and get a feel for it. You go to the shows to figure out who the hot players are, and then those are the best players to buy in the short term because people want them. People want those players, so you can flip it and make a quick $200 on $1,000 card or something like that.
Right.
So that's definitely a big benefit. And speaking of cons, I would say the shows in the last couple weeks have not been as busy as the previous few months. But I think a lot of that is due to market conditions. It's not really the shows. A lot of the shows that are being put on are fantastic events, but when the market is down, you're always going to see less transactions, less people buying, and it's just common. The hobby goes through ebbs and flows, and right now we're on a downtick, but that could just mean good buying opportunities. And
Sure.
No one can predict the market. You just got to find these little nooks and crannies to just navigate through the market and just figure out what's going to be the best move for you.
Well, and something I've noticed over the years is around the holiday season, it generally kind of slows down anyways, because I think people that are spending their own money on their own things like cards and other different collectibles are now using that money to, put toward their holiday trip or put toward their gifts for their family or, XYZ. So I think the holiday season generally kind of has a slowdown for collectibles anyways.
I agree with you 100%. People are they're focused on Christmas, they're focused on the holidays, Thanksgiving, whatever. Usually what I've seen is once we hit Q1, which is January, February of next year, everybody now has their Christmas money. People don't really have as much expenses as the end of the year is like the most expensive time, I feel like, for people in general.
Mm-hmm.
Travel's a lot more, vacations are a lot more. I 100% agree with you. I think we're going to see an uptick in Q1, but it's impossible to predict the market.
Yeah, for sure. Hey, so some guys I want to talk to you about. Everyone's high on the usual suspects, Jalen Green, Cade Cunningham, those guys. But you are particularly high on Franz Wagner, Sengun, right? You love Sengun, and even Santi Aldama, right? So why these dudes? Why are you looking for them?
So a lot of what I do when I'm buying basketball cards is I like to go a little bit deeper than the average person because I watch a lot of basketball. I watch a lot of college basketball, and I've seen these guys playing for a few years more than the average person. So I like to consider myself pretty good at figuring out like who I think is going to be good down the line. When you buy the top players in a class, it's just kind of tougher to make money because if you're going to hold for a while, you need the market to go up to make money. But if you buy a guy like Franz Wagner, who's a quarter of the price of Jalen Green and Cade, you don't need the market to go up, really. If he plays as good as Jalen Green and Cade, he now has 75% of room to come in and be priced higher. So that's why I like to look at players who aren't necessarily hyped right now, but I think that eventually in the coming months, in the coming years, they could perform better and gain hype. And that's just how I see it. I like to buy the top players too if I think they're going to be generational.
Sure.
But like I said before, it doesn't happen every year. Like Luka Doncic, when he came in, he was the top player in the class, but I spent thousands of dollars on him because I really believe that he was the guy that was better than everybody else in the 5 to 7 years of classes around him. You can't just compare guys to their class. You kind of have to compare guys to the era, to the generation, and to the players around them.
Yeah, no, and Luka, I mean, you nailed it with Luka, right? Do you want to share a little bit of your Luka story with us, or?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So pretty much Luka came in 2018. The market was nowhere near as high. The National, which is the biggest card show they hold every year, his base prism and a PSA 10, his base prism raw was $10 to $15, and his PSA 10 prism was like 75, I think, maybe 60. So Luka, his rookie year, he wasn't like Luka, but he showed flashes. So I decided that I thought the market was super underpriced at the time too, and I thought Luka had a chance to be generational, so it kind of worked together. So I pretty much took like over 50% of my total bankroll and put it into any Luka Doncic card that I could find, literally in the summer of 2018.
Yeah.
And then coming out of the gates in 2019, Luka performed like insane. He was averaging probably 30 a game for the first 15 games, something like that. And the market also exploded at the time. That was the time where cards were literally going up every day. It didn't matter what was going on. You just kind of knew the next day the card was going to be worth more.
Sure.
So I pretty much put all my money into Luka. And yeah, I mean, he came out of the gates on fire. The market went up, and I ended up selling a lot of the base stuff, the silver stuff that isn't as rare, to get into more rare stuff. But it was just, Luka pretty much changed my life. He gave me the opportunity to invest harder today and do some things that I want to do today. But it's a crazy story. Sports cards literally changed my life.
Yeah, it's amazing. It is amazing. And on that note, think back to 2003 when you were just a kid. Did you think you would be where you're at now because of the sports card hobby?
No. I mean, I honestly, sports cards, I'm obsessed with. I'm obsessed with. It's my number one thing, like in my life. But I didn't really understand that I could do it full time until about early in college. I didn't really like, because I was always taught like go to college, get a job, get a degree, do this, follow the process. But especially in the modern world, it's kind of trending away from that, and people are kind of doing what they love, which I love to see. People should try to be happier and chase their dreams, chase what they love. But to be honest, I really didn't think sports cards was going to be a career, but now I don't see myself ever leaving the business of sports cards.
Yeah, I mean that's amazing. And to a kid who's in the hobby now, who is maybe having these conversations with their parents, saying things like, "No, people are doing this for a living, this and that." What would you say to that kid?
I would say just do what your parents want if you're living under their household, but on the side, do what you want. So you got to work twice as hard. You got to do what they want because you're living under their roof and it's their rules unless you're paying for everything. But if you're not paying for everything, you do what they want, and then you make TikToks, you make YouTube videos on your off time, I would say.
And what's crazy to me is there are kids in the hobby today, 12 years old, that are making they're paying bills. You know what I mean? They're literally paying some of the bills so they can travel to these shows just based off of the sports card market. So it's crazy what has become of the market since 2003, and you've seen it all.
Yeah, I've interviewed a ton of kids recently, literally, who are like 20 years old and less. And I go to all the shows and I see these kids who are like 17, 16 with like big cards. And it's like, how did you get there? It's like they flip their way. They flip their way and they just work their way up. And it's amazing to see. I mean, I'm a collector and a flipper, but I think the flipping aspect of the hobby, people look at it as negative, but it's actually good because it brings in a whole new audience to the hobby that wouldn't be there if they couldn't make money. So flipping is actually a good thing, and I think the flippers need to be treated just as well as collectors because everybody's just as important to the ecosystem of the hobby as the next person. But everybody participates in the hobby in different ways, but the way they do it, it's all special to them, and I love it all. I mean, it's not just one way to get to anything, even in life. There's so many ways to get to the same outcome. You don't have to just go one way, and that's definitely shown in the sports card hobby.
Yeah, no, I think you said it perfectly with the ecosystem. We all represent a part of the ecosystem, and just like in real life and in science, every part of the ecosystem has to be there for the ecosystem to stay alive, to thrive. So I think you said that perfectly. Last thing I like to try to do is, if you have any of your favorite PC cards, maybe 2 or 3 that you want to show.
To be honest, my main PC stuff I keep like in my bank. Like I don't like to like, because they're such high value items.
Yeah.
I don't like to just like keep them around.
Sure.
But what do I have here? I have, this isn't a PC card, but I got a LeBron Topps Chrome BGS 9 I'm looking to sell. But everyone knows I probably have more cards than any single person. Or not, I wouldn't say that, but I have thousands of cards. I have thousands of cards at PSA right now, and
no, your stuff is insane. Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, you could probably build a tiny city with, you know, slabs if you wanted to.
Yeah, no, exactly.
Before we hop off, just give us some shameless plugs. Every plug you can. Where can the people find you? How can they find you? When can they find you? All the above.
So you can find me on pretty much any social media every day. My main is YouTube right now. I'm doing TikTok. I'm doing Twitter. I have a newsletter that goes out every day. You can subscribe to that. Go through the link tree on my bios on pretty much all of them. The Hobby is Alive podcast that comes out once a week. Make sure you're subscribed to that YouTube channel and that Instagram page. And yeah, I mean, I'm pretty much grinding. You can see my grind on social media. If anyone's paying attention, it's like content takes a lot of work. I'm posting on 4 or 5 platforms multiple times per day, plus the newsletter, plus the podcast. I'm going to card shows. It's just, you can pretty much find me anywhere. That's the
grind.
beauty.
The grind doesn't stop. The hobby is alive.
The hobby never sleeps.
The hobby never sleeps. So at CBlez for all the Instagram handles, at Hobby is Alive for the podcast. Hit the link tree in both of those. Subscribe to the newsletter. It's worth it. CBlez, I appreciate your time, dude.
I appreciate you having me on here. I love chatting with you.
Yo, special thanks to CBlez. Had a lot of fun talking with him. You can see and hear the passion for the hobby that he has. And just talking about, you know, the kids in the hobby, how he's came from being a kid in the hobby to where he's at now, what he's trying to do for the kids in the hobby, and just his overall enjoyment of life and the hobby right now is something that, you know, I envy for sure, and I think many of us do, and I'm just stoked to see CBlez continue to go out there, do his thing, meet people, shake hands, meet kids, all that stuff. Just keep pushing on, CBlez. Thank you again for your time. Super awesome interview, and you know, I'll see you around. I'll see you around soon, whenever it may be. We're buds, right? We're buds. Anyways, on to the mail day. Kobe Bryant. This mail day is from Jeremy, and he's a friend of mine in Idaho. We met when I was breaking on Whatnot. Him and I have just become kind of pretty solid friends, online buds, hobby homies, if you will. His whole family's amazing. Jeremy, Stacy, Rudy, their other kids. I don't want to name drop their kids' names, but all of them. Curry collectors, Joe Ingles collectors, yes, Joe Ingles collectors, Rudy Gobert collectors, Luka collectors, cool card collectors, Donovan Mitchell, everyone you can think of, Darren Fox. They're amazing people, but I know what's in here. They know I'm a Kobe collector. Kobe's in here. Kobe's in here. Let's see what we get. Let's see what we get. This is the first mail day of this season that I know what's in here. As far as card contents, I know it's Kobe. It's been a while since I looked at them, so some of the exact cards I won't exactly remember, but I do know we have an oversized card, like top loader card. I almost showed the old Addy there. Not good. I finally found my box cutter too, guys. Excitement. Excitement. This must be the plus size card. Very clever packaging. Yo, look at that. Look at this. Year in review, 97-98 Upper Deck Choice. UD Choice. That is sick. Let's take it out. Let's take it out. Oh man. Oh man. I gotta get a frame for this thing. A little tiny frame. Not so tiny frame, I guess. Hell yeah. Bryant All-Star debut. Kobe. 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 Sick. Alright. He tossed that in too. So shout out Jeremy for that deal. Here we go. Okay, yes. The winner stays card out of Donruss. I like the look of these. I think there might be two of them. The sticker head. UD Choice again. Collector's Choice. Upper Deck. I like this one a lot. Skybox Z-Force. Double up. Double up. Yeah, those are sick. This is a familiar card. This is a very familiar card. Why? I think I showed this on another episode. Graded. Double up. It's hard for me to say no to any Kobe cards. If you know me, it's very hard for me to say no. Another Z-Force. 97, second year. Look how young. Oh, look, he threw in some Simons. Simons is my new collector. Simons is the new kid for me. Kobe. Rookie. Winner stays again. I knew there was two. One-on-one, Kobe Bryant, Sharif Abdul-Rahim. I have this one as well, I believe, already in my top loader binder. I have this one graded already. And then Contenders, 1920 Contenders Optic, winning ticket. He signs in 1920. It was his last auto, I believe. 1920 Contenders Optic. Had a buddy that hit it. Crazy. That would be an absolute dream for me. Jeremy, thank you so much for the haul. Thank you for throwing in the top loader. Thank you for sneaking in a Simons. I don't even remember if we said yes or no to that. But thank you very much, Jeremy. Mad respect, Jeremy, and his whole family. That was fun. Thank you for the Kobe's. Again, thank you to Chad for his time on the interview. This was episode 4 of Thrown Breaks. Kobe Mail Day. Oversized Kobe card. Just so you guys get an idea how big it is. Look how much larger it is. Frame this thing. Frame this thing. Thank you, Jeremy and family. Thank you, Chad. Thank you to all of you. Hopefully this show and interview was enjoyable for you as it was for me. Until next time, don't forget how awesome you are. I gotta bounce. Peace.
everyone? Kaleigh Krish here. Thanks so much for joining us tonight on another episode of Who Wore It Best? Jersey Royale. Now, I'm not going to tell you which number I picked because I need you to watch the show, so just keep watching. But we're going to be talking about some home run heroes, a couple basketball players in there, and we're going to talk about an athlete from a sport we haven't talked about yet. So it's gonna be really exciting. Stay tuned, keep watching, like, subscribe, all that fun stuff. Super happy for you guys to be here. All right, let's check it out. What up, fans, and welcome back to another awe-inspiring episode of Who Wore It Best? Jersey Royale, the show where we pick a number, do hours of research on which athletes from all sports across the globe wore that particular number. We pit them against each other in the most ruthless battle royale to hit sports. At the end, the fight is up to me to announce the winner of who wore that number best. It's a good time, so stick around. This week, I decided to spin a wheel in order to determine the number we were going to be choosing. And what do you know it? It landed on number 44. How crazy is that? All right, let's go with the force. First up is a man you have undoubtedly heard his name. We are talking about the legendary Hammerin' Hank Aaron. Hank loved the game of baseball right off the bat. And early on, even in his teens, he was known as a power hitter. Now, in the minors, this guy hit cross-handed, which means he was a right-handed batter who had his left hand above his right. Just try doing that, it's weird. But he still hit 31 homers in his 2 seasons in the minors. Hank would credit that grip to his developing quick wrists, allowing him to wait on pitches longer. If it works for you. In 1954, Aaron got his chance with the big club, and on his first spring training start, Hank hit a home run. Now, Hank started out wearing number 5 in the majors and had a decent rookie year, batting .280 with 13 home runs. The next year, Aaron would change his number to 44, and it became his lucky number. In 4 different seasons, Hammerin' Hank would hit 44 home runs. In the 1955 season, Hank would hit .314 with 24 home runs and 106 RBIs. He was named to the NL All-Star roster, and it would be his first of a record 21 All-Star selections and the first of a record 25 All-Star game appearances. In 56, Aaron hit .328 with 26 home runs and 92 RBIs, and that would capture him one of his 2 NL batting titles. That same year, he was named the Sporting News NL Player of the Year. In 1957, it was a big year for Hank Aaron. Not only did he hit .322, which is 3rd best, he led the league in home runs with, you guessed it, 44. And he led the league in runs batted in with 132. But on September 23rd in Milwaukee, Aaron hit a 2-run walk-off home run against the St. Louis Cardinals, clinching the pennant for the Braves. And after touching home plate, he got a well-deserved meeting by his teammates on the field. That season, the Braves would go on to win the World Series, beating the defending champions, the New York Yankees, 4-3. In this series, Hank did his part, batting .393 with 3 homers and 7 RBIs. He would also take home his only NL MVP award that year. Not bad. Player of the Year, NL MVP, and a ring? I'll take it. The following year, Hank led the Braves to another pennant, hitting .326 with 30 home runs and 95 RBIs, but would ultimately lose the World Series in 7 to those damn Yankees. Jumping to 1963, Hank Aaron nearly won a Triple Crown. He again led the league with 44 home runs, 130 RBIs, and finished 3rd in batting average. In that season, Aaron became the 3rd player to hit 30 home runs and steal 30 bases in a single season, and the 1st player to record 40 home runs and steal 30 bases in a season. This guy has had some serious milestones in his career. He was the second youngest player to ever hit 500 home runs. On July 31st, 1969, Aaron hit his 537th home run, passing Mickey Mantle's total, which moved him into third place on the career home run list, after, of course, Babe Ruth and Willie Mays. In 1970, Hank collected his 3,000th hit. In the years to follow, he would also set the NL record for most seasons with 40 or more home runs, drove in the 2,000th run of his career, and broke the record for total bases with 6,134. Now that we've got all that great stuff out of the way, let's talk about the real beauty, shall we? For 39 years, the great Bambino himself, Babe Ruth, held the record for the most home runs, sitting pretty at 714, a record thought to be unbreakable. And because Hank Aaron's quiet demeanor, I'm sure people never would have guessed that it would be him. Oh, that's right, spoiler alert. Coming in the 1974 season, Hank Aaron was down by 2 to Babe Ruth. And on April 4th, on his first at-bat, Hammer and Hank would tie Babe Ruth's record. But of course, it wasn't good enough just to tie. The real doozy was that next home run. 4 days later, Aaron faced off against Al Downing and the LA Dodgers, with one runner on base, nobody out in the bottom of the 4th inning. A record-breaking crowd of 53,775 fans, including President Jimmy Carter, who was governor at the time, and Sammy Davis Jr. On Downing's second pitch, Aaron takes it to the yard, 385 feet deep, landing in the bullpen behind the left field fence. Now, I know the way that I just explained it is pretty iconic, but no one does it better than Vin Scully.
Once again, a standing ovation for Henry Aaron. So the confrontation for the second time. Aaron walked in the second inning. He means the tying run at the plate now. So we'll see what Downing does. Al at the belt, delivers, and he's low, ball 1. And that just adds to the pressure. The crowd booing. And stay a professional and pitch his game. 1 ball and no strikes. Aaron waiting. The outfield deep and straight away. Fastball is a high drive into deep left center field. Buckner goes back to the fence. It is gone. For baseball, what a marvelous moment for Atlanta and the state of Georgia. What a marvelous moment for the country and the world.
Insane, amazing, groundbreaking, all of the words. Aaron would hold on to the record for most home runs until Barry Bonds took over 33 years later. And there we go. A big player to start with, but one so deserving of leading us off. With that, let's take a look at the second athlete on our list. Now, we're gonna take this pick somewhere we have never been yet, to Formula One. Number 44, Lewis Hamilton. Now, Americans, don't wanna see your eyes glazing over and not paying attention here. Even if you don't know Formula One, you probably know Lewis Hamilton. Now, I think it's good to do a quick lesson on what Formula One is for the noobs out there, and a Formula One for dummies, if you will. Now, F1 is the pinnacle of motorsport and the highest class of single-seater racing. These cars are the fastest regulated road course racing cars in the world. F1 cars look like this with the open wheels, and they race on both permanent tracks and street circuits. You've probably seen this traditional track in Monte Carlo for the Monaco Grand Prix. Now, the race itself spans a weekend with practice sessions for drivers to get used to the track and qualifying sessions which take drivers' best time, use that to determine the order in which they will start on Sunday. The fastest driver gets first place on the grid, which is called pole position. Now, obviously, if you win the race, yay, you won. But points are calculated throughout the season. You get points for finishing in the top 10, up to 25 points if you win the race, and these points are given to the driver and to the team. So, at the end of a season, an award is given to the driver with the most points, called the Driver's Championship, and the team with the most points, called the Constructors' Championship. And just a note, these aren't always the same. Oh, and there's typically 10 teams who race Formula One. Each team has 2 drivers, so you're looking at an average of the best 20 drivers in the world on the track. Now, I could go on and on about rules and point system, but I think that's just enough for you to get the gist of what makes Lewis Hamilton so great. Lewis Hamilton started his professional F1 career in 2007, driving for McLaren. In his very first F1 race, Lewis finished third. He became the 13th driver in history to finish on the podium in his debut. In the next 2 races, Hamilton finished second, giving him enough points to lead the Drivers' Championship, making him the youngest driver to do so. Then, in the Canadian Grand Prix, Hamilton would secure his first pole position and ultimately win his first race. The next race, he won again. In his final race of his rookie season, Hamilton was 7 points ahead for the Drivers' Championship. In the Brazilian Grand Prix, Hamilton needed to finish 5th or better to secure the win. He finished 7th, losing the championship by 1 point. Brutal. The next season, Hamilton would sign a multi-million-pound 5-year contract with McLaren. That would prove to pay off. In a race that some still consider Hamilton's greatest win, and he has a lot to choose from, coming into the 2008 British Grand Prix, Hamilton was 10 points behind in the Drivers' Championship, and he was only able to grab 4th on the grid during qualifying, so not a fantastic start. With devastating rain conditions, most drivers were just trying to keep their cars on the track, but Hamilton was making a run. Imagine, the rain is coming down. You cannot see anything from behind your visor. You're going an average of 145 miles an hour with 19 other drivers driving around you who also cannot see. But somehow, by lap 5, Hamilton had the lead and wouldn't look back. In fact, he would keep pushing forward. And in a decision to stay on intermediate tires, that would propel Hamilton a full minute ahead of the rest of the pack. 9 cars were down by an entire lap. Another car was down by 2 laps. The others never finished. That would be Lewis's 7th Grand Prix victory and would put him back in the lead of the championship, which he would remain for the rest of the season. Hamilton became the youngest driver to win the World Drivers' Championship. Now, let's jump ahead to Lewis Hamilton's move to Mercedes. In 2013, Hamilton signed a 3-year deal with Mercedes. Lots of fans criticized this move because Mercedes didn't have a history of success. Lucky for them, Lewis Hamilton would change that. In 2014, after some regulation changes regarding the engine, Mercedes was considered the favorite. So much so that this ensued a season-long battle for the Drivers' Championship between both the Mercedes drivers. This year saw Hamilton's first career hat trick, and later on winning 5 consecutive races. In the final race of the season in Abu Dhabi, Hamilton had a perfect start to the race, taking the lead in the first turn and never looking back, securing his 2nd World Championship title. He finished the season with 384 points, recording 11 wins and 7 pole positions. In 2015, Mercedes would sign Hamilton to an additional 3 years for a reported $100 million, making him one of the highest paid drivers in Formula One. He would also break a 45-year-old record of laps led with 18 consecutive Grand Prix. He earned 16 consecutive podium finishes, 2nd long streak in Formula One history. Hamilton would secure his 3rd world title with 3 races to spare and finish with 381 points, 10 race wins, 11 pole positions, winning the FIA Pole Trophy for most pole positions in a season and the DHL Fastest Lap Award. Hamilton would win the Drivers' Championship again in 2017 and in 2018, where he would become the first driver to surpass 3,000 total career points. Again, in 2019, he'd win, for number 6, and in 2020 he was eyeing his 7th world title, which would capture tying the record with the legendary Michael Schumacher, earning 347 points, 11 wins, 10 pole positions, and 14 finishes. That was out of 17 races, by the way. He would again be awarded the DHL Fastest Lap Award and the FIA pole position and capture that 7th win.
The World Championship record is equalled. Lewis Hamilton wins the Turkish Grand Prix and is a 7-time champion of the world.
To recap, 7 Drivers' Championships, which is tied for the record, most career wins, most pole positions, most podium finishes, most career points, and most laps led. Whew, there you go, folks. Lewis Hamilton. All right, we are going back-to-back basketball players with our next 2 contenders, and first up we have number 44, George Gervin. Nicknamed the Iceman for his cool and smooth demeanor on the court. He was a 6'7" wing who dominated the league offensively, oftentimes with his signature finger roll, and he was known for his incredible basketball IQ and shot selection. In 1973, Gervin was scouted and signed by the Virginia Squires when the league was still in the ABA. In his rookie campaign, he would average 14.1 points and 4.3 rebounds, and that's decent. But in his second season, that's when he would truly break out, averaging 23.4 points, 8.4 rebounds, 1.4 steals, and 1.4 blocks. Next, Gervin would move to the team that would help him build his legacy, the San Antonio Spurs. Let's jump to 1977, after the ABA merged with the NBA, and Gervin would finally start accumulating the stats you see in the record books today. In the final game of the regular season, George Gervin had a slight lead as league leader in scoring over David Thompson. But then Thompson proceeded to drop 73 points in his final regular season game. Now, in order to win, Gervin had to score 59 points to gain that first crown. Well, Gervin exploded, and he nearly got all of that before the second half. In fact, he scored 33 points in the second quarter, setting a league record at the time. Once he had the title, he sat the rest of the game. He would continue to lead the NBA in scoring average for 3 years in a row, from 78 to 80, with a high of 33.1 points per game, and then again lead the league in 82. Now, in case you're not grasping how incredible leading the league in scoring 4 times is, that's the 3rd most scoring championships in NBA history. The only players that have more scoring crowns than Gervin? Michael Jordan and Wilt Chamberlain. Ever heard of them? And his best scoring year overall came in the 1979-1980 season, when he was averaging 33.1 points while shooting 52.8% from the field. Other than Michael Jordan, no other wing player has averaged that many points while shooting over 50%. Now, up to this point, the Spurs had made it to the conference finals twice, but not being able to advance and getting swept by the LA Lakers in the 1981-82 season. The next year, the Spurs added some young talent and took some of the pressure off Gervin. They finished 53-29 that season as the number 2 seed in the Western Conference, making it back to the conference finals. Once again, Gervin led the way with an average of 25.2 points per game, only to once again be taken down by the Lakers. In the final year of his career, George Gervin was a member of the Chicago Bulls with a young MJ. And despite his dominant scoring, George Gervin would never win a championship. Overall in his career, He was a 12-time All-Star, made 7 All-NBA teams, and 2 All-ABA teams. He averaged 26.1 points, 4.6 rebounds, 2.8 assists, and 1.2 steals on 51.1% shooting. Another incredible stat about Iceman? Other than LeBron James, he is the only player in NBA history to average 25 points per game while shooting over 50% from the field. In 1996, George Gervin was inducted into the Naismith Memorial Basketball Hall of Fame. Additionally, his number 44 was retired by the San Antonio Spurs. And finally, he has also been named as one of the 50 greatest players in NBA history. All right, folks, we are getting down to the wire. It is time to take a look at our last contender of the night. As a reminder, so far we have Hammer and Hank Aaron, Mr. GQ Lewis Hamilton, Iceman George Gervin, and finally, we have Mr. Clutch, the logo himself, Lakers legend Jerry West. Now, for those of you that don't know, Jerry West is the logo for the NBA. Yep, that silhouette, it's the one and only Jerry West. So, that alone means he's gotta be pretty good, right? Well, let's find out. Jerry West was drafted in 1960 with the 2nd overall pick by the Lakers, and this was right before the franchise relocated, so fun fact, Jerry West is the first player to be drafted by the Los Angeles Lakers. Now, in his rookie season, Elgin Baylor was the clear leader on the team, but that would open an immediate supporting role for West, and he took it, averaging 35 minutes per game with 17.6 points, 7.7 rebounds, and 4.2 assists to establish himself as the Lakers' second scoring option. That first season, West and the Lakers would get to the 1961 NBA playoffs, first fending off the Detroit Pistons, but ultimately losing to the St. Louis Hawks in 7 games, losing by 2. Heartbreaker. Now, in his sophomore year, West had more opportunity to step up, while Elgin spent most of his time serving in the military and only played 48 games. And boy, did he step up. He would average 30.8 points per game, 7.9 rebounds, and 5.4 assists with a 44.5 shooting average from the field, winning all NBA first team honors. On January 17, 1962, West scored a career-high 63 points in a 129-121 win over the New York Knicks. West became known especially for hitting important late-game shots, obviously leading to his nickname, Mr. Clutch. That year, the Lakers won 54 regular season games and secured a first-round bye in the 1962 NBA playoffs. They beat the Pistons in 4 to advance to the finals and face off against the juggernaut Boston Celtics. West and the Lakers would push a much better Boston Celtics team to a Game 7. For most of that Game 7, the Lakers trailed, but with Mr. Clutch, they would tie the game at 100 points. Frank Selvey missed an open 8-foot shot, which would have won the Lakers their first title. In overtime, the Celtics would secure their 110-107 victory over the LA Lakers. No wonder they became the biggest rivals in NBA history. In the 1962-63 season, the Lakers would make it back to the finals again against the Celtics. And with an injured Jerry West out, they would again fall to the Celtics. Jerry West shocked the world in the first round of the 1965 NBA playoffs. After Baylor suffered a career-threatening knee injury, West picked up the leading role spectacularly. In the first game with the Boston Bullets, West scored 49 points. In Game 2, 52 points, nearly half of LA's total. Despite West scoring 44 and 48 points in the next 2 games, the Bullets would win their home games. And in the must-win Game 5, Mr. Clutch came out and scored 42 points in the 117-115 win. In that series, West scored an average of 46.3 points per game. But once again, Boston was waiting for them and sent them packing from the NBA Finals 4-1. However, even with the Celtics holding Jerry's scoring opportunities, he still managed to average 40.6 points per game in the entirety of the 1965 playoffs. 40.6. That's the second highest single season playoff average of all time. And only Michael Jordan has one greater with 43.6 points per game. But it's kind of apples and oranges because MJ's average came in just 3 games because they were swept by the Celtics. Jerry would manage that average over 11 games. That's impressive. Now let's jump to 1969. The 55-win Lakers defeated the Atlanta Hawks and the San Francisco Warriors to meet the Boston Celtics again. This was the 6th finals series versus the Celtics in 8 years. In the first game of that series, West set the tone and scored 43 points in a 2-point victory. In the final game of that series, West dropped 42 points in a 2-point loss. That's right. Once again, the Lakers would lose the title to the Boston Celtics. Over that series, though, Jerry averaged an impressive 37.9 points per game, 7.4 assists, 4.7 rebounds, and shot 49% from the field. West nearly carried that Lakers team by himself, as the next best contributor offensively was Elgin Baylor, who was averaging less than 20 points per game over the series and shot under 40%. Ultimately, because of West's insane dominance, he would actually win the NBA Playoff MVP award and become the only player in NBA history to win the award on the losing team. Now that's impressive. Now, let's talk about his winning season. In the 1971-72 season, the Lakers dominated, embarking on an unprecedented 33-game win streak en route to a then record 69 wins in the regular season. West himself contributed with 25.8 points per game and to lead the league with a career-high 9.7 assists per game. He was named All-Star, All-NBA, and All-Defense First-Teamer and voted as the 1972 All-Star MVP. In the postseason, the Lakers rolled through the Chicago Bulls, then the Milwaukee Bucks, and in the finals met the New York Knicks. In Game 3 of the series, West set an all-time NBA record of 4,002 playoff points, and in Game 5, West scored 23 points and dished out 9 assists, helping the Lakers to win the NBA championship. Finally! Out of Jerry's 9 appearances in the NBA Finals, he only won the title once. Now, credit that or not to an incredible Celtics domination at the time. But nonetheless, his stats were impressive. Over his career, West averaged 27 points per game, but in a true Mr. Clutch style, his playoff numbers are even better, scoring 29.1 points per game, which is the 3rd highest playoff scoring average in NBA history. Now, because defense is really only played in the playoffs in the NBA, most of the time players score less, not more. But icons like MJ, Kobe, and Jerry put it on more when it matters most. Jerry West played in the league for 14 years and was named an All-Star every single one of those years. He also made 12 NBA All-Teams, 5 NBA All-Defense teams, and they didn't even name defensive teams until 8 years after Jerry's career got started. Jerry West went into the Basketball Hall of Fame in 1979, and the Lakers retired his number 44 in 1983. There you have it. 4 of the greatest number 44s all lined up, awaiting my decision of who wore it best. And before I announce the winner, as always, if there is a number that you would like to see, holla at me. If there is a number you don't want to see, let me know that also, because it'll probably be the next number I do. Remember, like and subscribe to the content, and make sure you tell your friends about all the incredible content that Titan TV is putting up. I know y'all are foaming at the mouth awaiting my decision, so here it goes. The greatest player to ever wear the number 44 is Hammerin' Hank Aaron. Yes. To be the greatest, you've got to beat the greatest, and that is what Aaron did. Surpassing Babe Ruth's home run record was one of the most iconic moments in baseball history. For a guy like Mickey Mantle to call Aaron the greatest player of his generation, and for prolific pitchers like Sandy Koufax and Don Drysdale to be scared to go up against him and actually nicknamed him Bad Henry, you've got to be the greatest. In his career, Hank Aaron also grabbed 3 Golden Gloves and averaged only 68 strikeouts in his 20-year career, while Barry Bonds and Babe Ruth averaged 83 and 86. Just saying. Hank Aaron was elected into the Baseball Hall of Fame in his first year of eligibility in 1982, and he has an award named after him. The best batting in the American and National League receive the Hank Aaron Award. And now, we have done it. Cross that number 44 off the list of the greats and tune in again next week to find out what number we are going to have battle it out. See you next time.
All right, my friends, welcome back to Boozin' on a Budget here on TitanTV. It's already episode 4. It is the taste episode. We're going to talk all about developing our palates and our nose and start giving you some tips and tricks to start getting those flavor notes that you hear people talking about. We're going to learn how to taste and smell better as we appreciate our alcoholic beverages. All right, what is taste? Taste is caused by chemical substances that stimulate receptors on our taste buds. Taste refers to the perception of sensory cells on your taste buds. When food compounds activate these sensory cells, your brain detects a taste like sweetness. Believe it or not, my friends, humans can only detect 5 main tastes. Those tastes are sweet, sour, salty, bitter, and savory are also referred to as umami. Like umami is meat, that savory meat flavor. There is constant research going on. They're looking to identify other flavors that humans can identify. But right now, everything comes back to those 5 main flavors. Everything's a connection of those or a combination of those. I mean, it sounds weird to say we can only taste 5 things, but really it's a combination of those. And then when you combine that with our nose, our olfactory system, our nose can perceive way more things than our palate or our tongue can. Our olfactory system is said to be able to identify 10 key signature aromas. Those are fragrant, as in florals and perfumes; fruity, all non-citrus fruits; citrus, lemon, lime, and orange; woody and resinous. Resin? No, not resin, resinous. Pine or fresh cut grass; chemical, as in ammonia or bleach; sweet, obviously we know what sweet is; minty, peppermint; toasted and nutty, your nuts, your popcorn, your peanut butter; pungent, like blue cheese and cigar smoke; and decayed, like rotting meat and sour milk. Now what are we going to do with this information, this taste and this smell? Where we're going to stop and slow down, as I mentioned in a previous episode, we're just going to slow down and be mindful about our alcoholic beverages. We're going to take a few moments to smell them, really try to pick out some different aromas, and then we're going to sip them and try to pick out some of those flavors there. Again, just slow it down a little bit. So again, take your time before you start. If it's a wine or a whiskey, give it a swirl. That's not something people just do to look pretentious or look cool. When people are swirling their wine or their whiskey, they're doing it so that those odor compounds will come up in the glass and you can smell it better. Also with wine, you're providing oxygen to the wine, which is going to help the wine open up and taste better as well. So take some time, swirl your beverages and smell them before you drink. If it's a beer, don't swirl your beer, but after you pour your beer, smell the foam. Smell the foam on your beers. That's going to give you the hops, the fruit. It's going to give you a hint of what's coming in that beer. So yes, smell your beer too. And don't be afraid. You'll see wine people, you'll see whiskey people. Don't be afraid to get your nose down into the glass. Ooh, there's mint on this whiskey right now. But again, get your nose in there, give it a good smell, get a sense of what is about to hit your palate. Now, it does make a little bit of difference When you have your nicer wine glasses or a nice nosing glass, this is what is called a Glencairn for whiskey. It's actually, you can see its shape is designed to concentrate those aromas coming up into this part of the glass so that you can stick your nose in there and get a really good smell of your spirit. We're gonna put some of this information in practice in my next segment, binge thinking. Let's dive into binge thinking. So how do you smell and taste all the different flavor notes that maybe you hear wine reviewers or whiskey reviewers talking about, or maybe it's the pretentious person at the party who says, oh, this wine has wet forest floor and oak and brambleberry and all these things, and you're thinking, how are they smelling all that stuff? Well, some of it's art, some of it's science. We're going to talk about how you can start doing those things. You can start identifying those flavor and aroma compounds. First, I want to start off by saying, I'm going to tell you guys a little secret that's going to hopefully make you a little bit more comfortable about really starting to just kind of blurt out the things that you're smelling and tasting. And that is that smell and taste, especially when it comes to your alcoholic beverages, is subjective. If one person picks up a wine and says that they smell cherries, strawberries, blueberries, another person might pick up that wine and say, I smell oak, dried leaves, and wet soil. Neither one of them are wrong. You can't tell me what I'm smelling, and I can't tell you what you're smelling. So it's subjective. There really is no wrong. I may smell something that you may not smell. So don't be afraid to talk about what you're smelling and talk about what you're tasting. If anybody ever says, nope, you're wrong, that's not a smell or a taste, that's bullshit. Taste and smell is subjective. So you're building a little confidence with your nose and with your palate. Here's something that was a piece of advice that was given to me when I started out in my journey. Don't overthink it. A lot of people, I'll say, what do you smell? What do you taste? Oh, they say, I'm really bad at that. I don't know how to do that. Don't overthink it. Get your nose in there and just start spitting out the first thing that comes to mind, really, even if you're not sure if it's right. The more you do this in practice, the more you just start getting used to just listing the things that come to front of mind when you're nosing and you're tasting your stuff, you're going to start to identify. That's just start blurting it out. That's the best way to really start developing your nose and your palate. There's vanilla on this, caramel and some other things, but you're going to start, the more you do this, the more you practice, the more repetition, you're going to start to identify your favorite wine that you have, your favorite beer. You're going to start to smell it. It's going to smell the same. You're going to smell it against some other wine, beer, or whiskey, and they're going to smell a little different, and then that's going to help you pick things out. But don't overthink it. Just start blurting it out and have fun with it. This is supposed to be fun. Just to state, don't overthink it. Have fun with it. There's really no right or wrong answers with this. Here's another awesome way to really start defining things. Start broad. So let's say I have a wine. I smell wine, and okay, the most broad term that I can come up with is it's fruity. Cool, it probably is fruity. That's probably a pretty good, wine's gonna be fruity. Your whiskey can be fruity, your beer can be fruity. But so let's say I have some wine and I'm swirling it and I say, smells like fruit. Cool, what type of fruit? Okay, we've identified fruit, now let's move down a section. It's cherry. Cool, so now we have fruit, cherry. What type of cherry? Ripe, underripe, sour cherry, maraschino cherry, Bing cherry, Rainier cherry. Start broad and work your way down for each thing, whether that's citrus working your way to lime or lemon or whatever it is, or even orange. Start with citrus first. With the oak or some of the woodiness stuff, you might say it just smells like wood. It smells like a burnt campfire. I mean, I think suffice it to say wood. Smell a lot of wood. Most of our wines are oaked. All of our bourbon is in oak, and so start with wood, and then you can start teasing out some of that. Maybe that's sandalwood, maybe that's charred oak, things like that. Start broad. And my friends, most importantly, this stuff's not going to come easy. It takes some practice. It takes a little bit of repetition. Like go wine tasting, go beer tasting, go whiskey tasting, taste across a flight, go back the other way. The more you do this, the more you practice, the more those flavors and those aroma notes are going to start sticking out to you. My friends, welcome back. It is time for our guest of the week, and I am so excited. It is my first guest, the first guest in Boozin on a Budget show history, and it is my friends Shannon and John Blomquist. They own a mobile bar called Poison and Wine. They've also been in the wine and alcohol industry for a long time. Let's hop into our guest interview this week. Check it out. All right, guys, I'd like to welcome my guests, Shannon and John Blomquist. They own a mobile bar called Poison and Wine, and Shannon also works at Whispering Vine, a wine bar in Reno. So first of all, how are you guys? Thank you so much for coming on.
We're great.
Tell me a little bit about your certifications in the field, how long you've been doing it, and all that stuff, and then we'll get to the mobile bar as well.
Okay, so I've been in the wine industry at Whispering Vine for 12 years this month. And then we started our mobile bar 2 years ago.
Yeah. I worked in, I started working at Whispering Vine in their cocktail program. I eventually took over. I was their spirits buyer, ran their beverage program there. And then we started Poison and Wine. This last year, I was able to step away full time to focus on our mobile bartending, catering, events. And yeah, it's been great. You know, I mean, we've spent a lot of time focusing on learning about wine, spirits, cocktail techniques, and then moving into an event space is much different because you're batching a lot of times. You're having to use techniques to provide quality cocktails for large quantities of people. As opposed to sitting there shaking behind the bar for individual orders. So it's been a learning process, but it's really fun. And yeah.
We're here.
Cool. Yeah, I want to get into more of that here in a minute. Especially, I'm intrigued by the batching, as how that's different from the bar. But you guys just went on a super sweet vacation. Tell me where you guys went, and tell me if you encountered any like native drinks there, and like how that kind of played out on your vacation.
Yeah, so we went to Greece for a belated honeymoon / 40th birthday for me. Still young. But we went to Santorini. Obviously, I wanted to go there because of the grapes there and how they do their nest baskets for their vines.
I forget the specific term for it, but they get so much wind that it blows the blossoms and the fruit off of the vines, so they can't trellis like you would see in Napa and a lot of places in Europe. So they actually have to weave the vines into these little baskets that sit low to the ground to protect them from the wind. So it's a really unique style of wine making, cultivating that you don't see a lot of other places in the world.
Yeah. So we went there and we drank some amazing high acid volcanic soil wines. We had some ouzo.
A lot of ouzo. It's their after dinner drink. And then mastija, which is really unique. It comes from the sap of a tree. It's a liquor made from the sap of a tree on I can't remember the specific island, but it's native to the area, and they basically take that sap and create an alcohol out of it. And it's a sweeter drink. It's mainly used as like a digestive. Okay. But it's kind of falls into that kind of black licorice-y, like ouzo sort of flavor. But yeah, it's a great after dinner drink. Really good. It's digestive. It's fun, and they serve it. They sell it in shots. They sell it in little bottles. They sell it in 350 bottles, and then you can buy 750s. And what's cool is in Greece, most of the places you buy spirits from the bars, so they don't have like a separate retail and like on-premise, off-premise license. So you can buy them there, and just basically a lot of them do house versions of their mastija and their ouzo. It's really cool.
So say the name of the one again. The tree sap one is called what?
Mastija. It's, forgive me if I get it wrong, but I believe it's Mastixa. So okay. Mastija.
Very cool. I'm definitely going to check that out.
Yeah, it's kind of like we just had an Unterberg, so it's kind of like that after lunch, after dinner digestive.
All right, guys. So let's talk about Poison and Wine. I'm really stoked. I've been watching you guys' socials. I was there in the beginning when you guys were still building it out and kind of watching you guys go along. Mm-hmm. So when did this start to kind of take shape? When did you guys sit down and say, you know what, let's do a mobile bar? Where did that idea come from? Where did it start?
I think, John and I have always been entrepreneurs at heart, and we've always wanted to just work for ourselves and not have to be committed to working for somebody else. And so, as we found working together at Whispering Vine, we worked really well together, and we just wanted to take that to the next level. And, at the time, there wasn't a lot of mobile businesses in Reno, and we wanted to have the freedom to make our own schedules without having to be in a brick or mortar. And for me, you know, managing 4 stores at the time with over 30 people, I didn't want to have to be a slave to a brick and mortar. So for us, it was just kind of a no-brainer to start something new and make our own schedule and be our own bosses. And we just kind of talked about it, and then we had a budget, and we were looking for trailers, and one kind of just fell into our lap, and it was in our budget. It was right down the street. We didn't have to try and find a California owner to go to the DMV to get a California title, because a lot of places didn't have a title, and it all just kind of worked out.
And we were fortunate enough to have a lot of friends who were very creative and whatnot in their fields. And so we had a friend who was he's a welder. He really helped us cut out the windows and create the bar and all that stuff. You know, we had a friend who helped us with the electrical and the plumbing. So we've been very fortunate. I think without that, it would have been a bigger challenge. For us, we were very fortunate that once we got that trailer, we were able to, you know, convert it into a mobile bar fairly easily. It took about a little less than a year. We bought it in 2019. And then 2020 happened, and you know, there were no events, so we were able to pump the brakes a little bit and really focus on creating it. And then we had a friend who was getting married, small wedding, still during COVID, October 2020, and that kind of forced us to finish up the project. And when we were done with that, you know, the next year we were able to kind of hit the ground running when spring 2021 hit. Mm-hmm. So yeah.
Very cool. No, I'm super stoked for you guys, and to hear you say things like you kind of wanted to get out from a brick and mortar, a slave to a 9 to 5 and all that. That's kind of what brought me down to Vegas and kind of got me out of rehab. Yeah. So the call for that is very big, and it's an awesome lifestyle. So I'm stoked that you guys are doing that.
Thank you.
Yeah. It seems I'm seeing you guys kind of caught the first wave, because I feel like there's a lot of people who are now like, not just the mobile bar stuff, but like there's people are diving into this mobile, you know, this concept of mobile stuff for events. There's the bars, there's a friend of mine does like a balloon business where she has balloons.
Yeah.
So I think you guys got in at a good time. I have one other friend who have a mobile bar out in Sacramento area. And so it's very cool. I'm in the wedding industry down here in Las Vegas. It was something I was hoping to get away from when I moved down here. I'm like, oh yeah, I'm never.
You're always in the wedding.
For sure. I was like, oh, I'm never gonna do a wedding again.
And Ryan's wedding.
And so now I'm down here doing like,
you know,
but you're so good at it.
Yeah. I know. So, but it's cool because I get to see the wedding industry down here. It is like a well-oiled machine. So talk to me a little bit about how you guys are finding the wedding industry, and then also going back to that preparation that you're talking about as far as batching for cocktails, preparing for a party to meet that demand. Talk to me a little bit about that.
So, I mean, that's something that I got into a little bit. Thankfully, I was fortunate enough to work at Whispering Vine, and we had slushy machines that we were doing in the summer. And because of that program, I had to learn how to take the cocktails, and, you know, for slushy machines, you got to figure out the right bricks, which is the sugar to water and alcohol ratio, basically making sure there's enough sugar to keep it frozen, but not freeze into an ice ball. And you know, we're batching large quantities of cocktails. And so I had a little bit of schooling. And for anybody who's like, I'm not going to use math in my life in school, you know, you're like, oh, I'm never going to use this. Practice. Turns out, as a bartender in this industry, I use percentages and spreadsheets and decimals, and like I had to move into a type A personality where I'm basically now creating spreadsheets of all of our recipes, and then from that I take that single serving recipe, I batch it up to a gallon, and how many that creates, batch that up to 2 gallons, 5 gallons, et cetera, et cetera. And it's a really great process if you can figure out how to get the balance of, you know, sugar to acid to dilution, all that stuff. You can figure out how to batch all that. Then a lot of times you can just get those drinks. We batch them into kegs, and then we run them through our keg system on nitrogen, and that really helps with lines at the bar. You're not having to, you know, shake a daiquiri for one person, which takes like 3 minutes, you know, and then the next person comes up and orders, and you got to rinse out all your things and then get started again. That creates a huge line. So being able to do his and hers cocktails, batch those up in a huge way, and offer that has been a lifesaver. It's a time saver at the bar, and it really makes the wedding service runs so much smoother. A lot of people want stirred and shaken bars, and I mean, for a wedding size of 50, we can do that and still keep it running. But once you start getting into 100 people, 150 people, 200 people, which we're doing a couple next year, you know, that just doesn't work. You've really got to be able to move people, get them up, pour them a drink, get them away so that those lines don't build up.
And good drinks, you know.
Yeah,
that's the nice thing is like with batching, we're able to do, you know, craft cocktails in kegs instead of just, you know, vodka soda with, you know, a splash of cran.
Which is nothing wrong with that, but yeah.
Right. So that's interesting. So you're actually kegging this stuff so that it's a quick delivery, and then you can probably, does it keep in there for a little while? Can you use it at multiple events if you're going in just for like, say, Food Truck Friday, stuff like that?
Yeah, you can. You know, I mean, it has a shelf life. We also use there's you can use fresh lime juice, fresh lemon juice, but that has really a couple days on it before it starts to kind of change the flavor. It's a little more bitter and astringent. But we use super juice, which is a recipe by I think Nickel City is the bar that the owner there came up with, and it basically utilizes the entire fruit. And so you take all the lime peels off or lemon peels. You end up using citric acid and malic acid in a different ratios. You add the juice and then you add water. And the other day, I think I used 5 lemons and I created a little over a liter of lemon juice. So you use less product, which is more of a cost saving measure. And then you also use the entire fruit. So you're not just juicing and throwing the whole thing away. So it's also like more sustainable.
Which before we were using like 1 bag of limes would give us maybe a liter.
And now we can do a liter with like 5 or 6 limes. Well, probably like 6 limes. And so what's great is it's more shelf stable because of the acidity and the malic citric acid in there. So that lasts more like a week. And so yeah, using those bar practices, we're able to kind of have a more stable cocktail. It lasts in kegs in the right circumstances. You know, if you gas it to get the oxygen out of there, you've got this super juice in here and everything. You end up being able to keep a cocktail around in a keg without much flavor change in it for, you know, roughly a week before you can notice any difference.
Gotcha.
So it's using good practices creates a much more sustainable product.
Interesting. And you're gassing, you're covering them up with some gas on the keg to keep the oxygen off too, just like you would a bottle of wine in the bar.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. Yeah. It's a nitrogen, which you can get from your local
homebrew,
which is where we get it from. A nice little privately owned spot. They do like a little homebrew shop, and we buy our gas from them. And it's actually cheaper than going to like the big gas shops too, which is even cooler.
Nice.
But yeah, we nitrogen on those, and then if you want to do carbonated cocktails, it's a little bit more involved, but it's possible. You could do Aperol spritzes in the keg and stuff like that. So
cool, super cool. So what's the most popular drink that you guys have done so far?
It's the jalapeno watermelon margarita for sure,
or the cucumber gin and tonic.
Yeah, both are great,
stellar.
and
yeah,
it's fun. I mean, you infuse the tequila with some jalapenos, juice watermelons, and then we use triple sec and fresh lime juice. We don't like using pre-mixed sour mixes or anything like that. So, and then the cucumber gin and tonic, we infuse gin with English cucumbers. We use elderflower liqueur tonic. So,
and then you garnishes that boozy cucumber on top. It's so good.
Gotta have that.
A shot.
Absolutely. One of the main tenets of my show is taking people, kind of moving them up. Like, we're in the industry talking about, covering the keg with gas. Like, I would nerd out on that stuff all day. But like your average consumer, there was a long time where I was just drinking my wine, my beer, my whiskey, whatever. I wasn't thinking too much about that stuff. When you move up into the next realm and you start really diving in and researching, do you have any kind of advice? Or really, I want people to kind of start taking a step back and really finding appreciation for their drinks. Do you have any advice maybe, or maybe how you started on that?
For me, so I can't speak for Shannon, but for me, I got into spirits and cocktails and then wine by working at Whispering Vine. But the impetus was I was working at a different bar, and it was a beer and shot bar, a college bar. We were basically pouring whiskey, Cokes, vodka sodas, beer, and shots. And that was great. It was great money. It was fun. It was fast paced. But I wanted to kind of, learn some new techniques and branch out. And I thankfully got a job at Whispering Vine, and they had a wonderful library of spirits. And so what really got me is like just being open to it, like I didn't know anything about Scotch. And even to this day, I'm still hit or miss on Scotch because it's not my flavor. But I mean, I can say I don't like smoky Scotches, but then I can tell you that like the special edition Ardbeg Grooves, which is like the smokiest of the smokiest, their Grooves edition is like phenomenal. And I mean, you can always find something. When somebody tells me they don't like gin, the thing about gin is vodka tea. You basically take vodka and then you add botanicals, and they add those botanicals by creating fresh botanicals, orange peels, and like herbs and stuff like that. They put them basically in a basket and they distill it and steam it, and those flavors get into the gin. And so basically it's like adding a tea bag. And so if you say I don't like gin, you might not like heavy juniper gins, but then you're going to find gins that are more citrus forward, or like Hendrix is like rose hip and cucumbers. Like, if anybody who tells me I don't like something, I say, if I have enough library behind me, I'm like, give me 5 minutes. Let's taste through some things. Let's find you something that you like. And I think that just having the patience and being open and being willing to try new things and taste things that you think you don't like. Just because you don't like a Malbec that you tried once doesn't mean that there's not a great Malbec out there. And it's exploration.
That's how I feel too. Yeah, definitely about wine. When people are like, "Oh, I don't like Merlot," I'm like, okay, well, let me just taste you. So what do you like? And they're like, "Oh, I like something like jammy and fruity." And it's like, okay, well, obviously you're gonna like a jammy Zin, but at the same time, like, I pour them a taste of a jammier Merlot, even though they've told me they don't like Merlot, and I don't show them the label. I'm like, what do you think about that? They're like, oh, it's delicious. Yeah. Like, that's where Whispering Vine to me, and obviously to John, has like really helped us kind of figure out our senses and our knowledge. Is we have the opportunity to have a lot at our fingertips, and thankfully.
Well, and let me also just interrupt real quick and just say, always ask your bartender.
Yeah, that's true.
Your bartender is going to be, people sit there and they argue with their friend over what they should have. Your friend doesn't know any more than you do about what's on this menu, most likely. Ask your bartender. Your bartender is going to tell you what you like, or
like,
what,
and they'll give you ideas. Like, okay, so do you like something spicy? Do you like something fruity? Do you like something citrusy? That helps kind of figure out. And your bartenders are going to know. They're in the industry. They've tasted a lot. They're going to know which kind of direction to guide you in. Yeah. So
yeah, and it's fun to recommend something that somebody's face lights up and you're like, see, I told you.
Yeah.
That's
a delicious Merlot.
Well, back to the Merlot.
You watched
Merlot,
whatever that movie was. What was it? Yes, that's the movie. Yeah, and everybody's like, I don't like Merlot. And you're like,
yeah, they really shit all over Merlot.
You probably do. You probably really love Merlot because it's amazing.
Yeah, great.
Well, and gin too. The only reason I don't like gin is because one time I drank too much of it and I passed out, and my friends drew a penis on my forehead, and so I had to stay away from gin for.
Don't blame the gin, man. That was your fault.
That's true. I drank I think almost a whole bottle of Tanqueray before a Nevada football game, and
yes.
I don't remember going to the Wall. We apparently were at the Wall for a long time, and I'm like, we were?
Of course you were.
Yeah, and my friends took it upon themselves to draw, penises on me, and all that good stuff. We went through a gin and tonic phase where we're like, ooh, let's make gin and tonic. This was a long time ago. This was before I, was thinking like the way that we think about this. I don't know why we were on gin and tonics, but
yeah, you're on a kick.
Yeah, we went on a kick, and that was the end of my kick, because I think I snuck in like a 7-Eleven, like a big old like Slurpee glass. I like stuffed it in my pants and like walked in the game, and I'm in the end zone pounding it.
Well, and here's the other thing too, is another big one is rum. And so many people, I'm a huge advocate of rum. And so many people are like, oh, I don't like rum. And because they think of rum as Bacardi and Captain Morgan. That's like the only two rums they know. And if you delve into, rum is so amazing. It's got, you've got sugarcane rum, you've got molasses rum, you've got cane juice rum, you've got basically made out of any sugar product you can. So those are different flavors. And then you've got the terroir, you know, whether you're doing it in Martinique or whether you're doing it in Jamaica or whether you're doing it in any of those other Caribbean places. And then whether you're pot stilling, what barrel you put it in. Like, I mean, the rum is so diverse and so amazing. And if you get a company like Foursquare, which they blend, so they hand select from all these different distillers that make delicious rums, and then they blend, so they're putting their stamp on it by making this flavor that they blend together, and you can get rums that are like sweet and caramely. You can get rums that are vegetal from like Martinique, like the rum agricoles. Like it's such a wide world, and when people think of rum, they're like, oh, you got white Bacardi rum, and you got Captain Morgan rum, and you got Kraken from Costco.
Right.
You know, and that's like all they think about. But there's so much rum in the world, and I love it. And everybody needs to get on
a rum train.
Get on a rum.
Well, see, I think you mentioned terroir, you mentioned some barrel aging, some different things that, you know, we're familiar with from the wine world. Actually, I think the time that I went and hung out with you guys at Whispering Vine, John asked me, you're like, all right, you're a wine guy. Have you made it? Most wine people start in wine, or a lot of them, and then go to whiskey because they're looking at some of the same things. And so then I started deep diving on whiskey. I think rum, I haven't quite gone there yet, but just knowing that they're doing some of these different things. And that's, again, what I'm talking about, just like opening our appreciation, looking at the next level of how our cocktails and stuff is made is one of the things that I'm really trying to relate to my audience. So thank you guys for that. Before we get out of here, Paisan and Wine, I want to know, you guys just don't do weddings, you do other events, you're for hire for all kinds of stuff like that. How can people find you? Where are your social medias? What do we need to know to find you guys?
All social medias at Paisan and Wine.
Yeah, we do, you know, Instagram, Facebook. I think we have a TikTok, but we don't
have a TikTok.
Yeah, but it's Paisan, PIZEN, Wine, WINE. Is how to find us. Our website is paisanandwine.com. And you can always reach out to us. We do, you know, we'll do birthdays, weddings,
bat
mitzvahs,
mocktails, cocktails.
Yeah.
All of the
hot
things.
chocolate stuff. We just like throwing a good party for everybody, you know? If people are smiling, we're doing a good job.
Absolutely. Perfect. Well, we'll get that information up for our audience as well. And just thank you guys so much for coming on. I really appreciate your time. It's really nice to see you guys' faces and talk to you. All right, my friends, it's time for the segment Drink of the Week. And that's just, what am I sipping right now? Well, I got a little variety pack from Deschutes. Deschutes, an awesome brewery. A lot of people familiar with their fresh squeezed. So I got one. This is a Symphonic Chronic, a dank IPA. Fresh squeezed was in there as well. But around the holidays, a lot of these variety packs come out. It's a really fun way to get to try a number of different styles from your favorite breweries and stuff like that. But really, I want to talk about, I'm really stoked. I'm almost done with this bottle of Smoke Wagon straight bourbon whiskey. This one coming in at 92.5 proof. This one is whiskey that is sourced from MGP in Indiana. Those barrels are then hand selected and expertly blended by H&C Distilling Company in Las Vegas, Nevada. So if you're into whiskey at all, Smoke Wagon has a pretty good buzz about it. There's the Uncut, Unfiltered, which is one of the most popular Smoke Wagon offerings. They have their small batch. They have one of my favorite ones is Uncut the Younger, a little high proof offering there. But again, this stuff coming from my home state of Nevada and is located in Las Vegas, Nevada. So I poured some out. I'm gonna swirl it. Let's smell it. Let's see what we can get. This one not overly high proof. There's the oak. I said there's vanilla earlier. There's some mint on it. Got a little menthol sticking up right now. Nice and caramely. I've been kind of drinking this bottle. It was really good. It's got a nice kind of perfume to it. I use that a lot. It's just kind of like a burnt oak whiskey perfume. I don't really know how else to describe it. That vanilla caramel though, for sure there. Real nice refined nose. Again, nose picking up all kinds of different things. I mean, a lot of my bourbons and whiskeys, I just sit there and smell them and smell them and smell them some more long before I taste them. Really love the way that bourbon whiskey smells. Vanilla and caramel, the dominant notes on the nose here. Let's give it a taste. That's my first sip of whiskey of the night. That first sip can bring a tear to your eye. Let's talk about that. when we're talking about tasting, this goes for wine, beer, and whiskey. A lot of times you want to kind of prime your palate. Don't judge something from that first sip. Get your palate warmed up a little bit. So that first sip of this whiskey, kind of primed the palate, warmed it up. Let's go in a second time. That's where you're going to be able, you know, your tongue is recovering from that alcohol a little bit, and you can really start to get into some of those flavor notes. It does. It has like a nice, gosh, I want to say like a coffee cake kind of a sweetness going on with a little bit of cinnamon, and the caramel and vanilla that were on the nose are there on the palate as well. But it's like got a real nice sweet baking kind of thing happening on the palate. Not overly high on the proof. Real good sipper here with the Smoke Wagon. If you haven't had the Smoke Wagon stuff, check it out. Especially if you want to pony up a little bit more money and get that uncut, unfiltered. That's the one that everybody raves about. Tough to find sometimes as well. All right, my friends, we have made it to the last segment of our show tonight, and that is Pairs With. Let's talk about pairing stuff. Now, this being the taste episode, we talked a little bit about pairing stuff for our Thanksgiving dinner, but I want to talk about pairing things really just to help get your palate that refreshed so that you can really start picking out flavor notes. The popular pairing for wine is, you know, cheese and wine, cheese and wine. Cheese and wine, a classic wine pairing, as that cheese comes in and really gives your palate a nice rinse before your next sip of wine. It's really a great way to start picking out different flavors in your wine. When you have food and your beverage going on, you're starting to taste the beverage and the food a little bit better. And that's what's awesome about a classic wine pairing. When you pair your wine with your food, not only is your food going to taste better, but your wine is going to taste better too. And we want to use food to really start helping us pick these flavor notes out. So when we have a little bite of something between sips, that helps us to reset the palate and to really start identifying these different flavor notes. So like I said, wine and cheese, now we have all these big charcuterie boards. Get a charcuterie board. Man, some of these things are beautiful. Meats, cheeses, nuts, olives, just all kinds of stuff that is helping you develop your palate as you're snacking those and drinking your wine. It's gonna make all kinds of flavor notes jump out of your wine. And again, just the going back and forth between the food and the beverage, you're gonna really start to get the identity, the characteristics of your beverage are gonna stick out. So for beer, get yourself some nuts, some chips, some pizza, some barbecue. Boy, that beer is gonna wash that food down. It's gonna make it taste great. It's gonna cleanse your palate. And then that beer is gonna really start sticking out on your palate. So pair it with your favorite nosh. Get you some snacks and pair it with your beverages. It's only gonna help you start to develop your palate and your nose as you're going back and forth across your snacks and your beverages. And what's better than a little bit of snack time with your beverage? Nothing could be better. Tough work to develop our palate and our nose. I'm recommending that you eat salty, fun snacks and drink your favorite wine and whiskey. But again, this is how we learn. This is how we develop our palate. We're going to talk more about this in future shows, but practice, practice, practice. Keep on sipping. Keep on munching on your favorite snacks. Smell your favorite drinks. Take some time to be mindful and slow down. You're going to find they're going to have a refined nose and palate before no time. All right, guys, thank you so much for checking out Boozin' on a Budget this week here on Titan TV. Next week, I'm very excited. I can't help but be biased. Probably my favorite drink for the last 4 or 5 years. I'm really into my wines, but I'm also really, really into my bourbon whiskeys. So next week will be the whiskey episode. Bourbon whiskey taking over the world, taking over America, taking over the world. The last 10 years in the whiskey world, bourbon has just exploded on the scene. We're going to talk all about that stuff. We're going to talk about why it's hard to find some bottles now, why the price of your whiskeys have skyrocketed, what to look for. We're going to cover it all. So we'll see you guys next week on Boozin' on a Budget.